Boop. Okay. I was like, is that the right mic? Let me just whack it with its, oh boy, with its pop shield. Okay, so hello. Or pop filter, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to whatever. We're going to be talking about neurodevelopmental disability rights today because we'll be talking about that till I die. Which is hopefully in like, I don't know, like 60 years would be pretty sweet if I could make it 60 years. But anyways, I will be doing that, and we'll be doing more and more and more and more and more of that. But the other thing I was thinking about, there's one more thing I was thinking about talking about. Let me try to remember what it was. What was it? Oh, I can't remember. For the life of me, I should have written it down. I'll be sitting because I have almost certainly a labrum tear, acetabular tear, if you want to get technical, more than likely. And I also found out I have a form of hip dysplasia on the right side that's normally treated in children, so that did not happen. And I may need to have major surgery to correct it. Pretty high likelihood that that's the right move. But I'm in the phase of going through doctors. I have an MRI that was already taken. Like it went pretty boom, boom, boom. X-ray found it. MRI next day. Because you got to move on this. If that's the right move to do, you got to do it so that my bones can heal from that. But I would have my own hip. It would just have to be modified a bit to behave like a hip, because it doesn't. My hip is out here acting like a nothing. It's acting like a void that my femur has just been sitting in. Ligaments, not really how that's supposed to work. It's supposed to have some bony structure to support it. That is what we call a hip joint, but I don't have one. I have something else on the right side. Left side is more like an actual hip joint. But yeah, so that explained a lot about ballet. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Disability rights, and I'm trying to think what else. There was something else that came up this week. I think new things, old things, all things, do things is really important. And also my model of doing as arriving, doing as building is really important. Doing as discerning as part of the building, like that you actually sit and you spend time with something and you allow for your sensory appreciation for it to be cultivated in this specific instance, and then connecting it to your past instances, as well as motivating you to learn more. So if you have some sense data that you don't know how to interpret yet, whoa, an opportunity to learn. So doing as building creates a sort of positive feedback loop, or a closed circuit of I want to learn, I want to learn, I want to learn, and then you have a form of motivation that while it will propel you through space, move your body about, it's with the goal, quote unquote. I see, that's more doing is right. It's with the specific desire to be able to understand the thing that you're observing, that you're thinking of building, or originating a new build from what you've understood. There's some focal object, some sort of a landmarks that you have started to understand deeper, and you want to cultivate your abilities to understand it deeper, which you get clued into that you need to do that by your appreciation of the sense data that you've already been able to observe from the object and from your past experiences with other objects. So that's my argument, is there something like that, and it lines up with other theories of the brain, but I think that separating and making this distinct is important. It also is important to understanding autism and what we are and what we are not as autistic people, including things like, I was talking with Kyle, who's hanging out here today, about this, that I am socially motivated, but I am socially impaired. And I think being socially motivated is on a distinct continuum from the actual autism itself. And you may not be able to express the fact that you have intact abilities for social motivation, like you are interested in other people, and being approving of other people and being approved by other people, a reciprocal relationship of approval. That's not unhealthy. By the way, what's unhealthy is narcissism, where you're like, I just want other people to approve of me, and then I want to always tell them if they're worth anything or not, and that's it. Instead of like appreciating another person. Genuinely. Right? Devaluing another person is what you get from narcissism. Like appreciating another person is just like a ability to spend time discerning qualities of a person and caring about their fruition in a pro-social manner that as an autistic person I may struggle to participate in that process as directly as somebody without autism, because I can't see a lot of information and sometimes I am useless and kind of in the way for people who have to figure out all that data that I can't see because of the impairment that I think is happening in the grid cells. So I'm missing the context of abstract things that we call social skills, but are really built on concrete spatial visual spatial processing and world building. Like you build world upon world. I don't have that context. That's okay. It's not necessary in order for you to do lots of really important things to be a helpful person. I like the idea of being a helpful person because Mr. Rogers had to look for the helpers, and that guy was on to like so many grid things. So we quote him at the beginning of the stream if you look at the stream starting soon, and that's about it. So I'm sitting here cleaning my desk to start, and not doing very much else or I'm doing things where I could be seated while I do it because my hip, I don't have as much information as I will and need to discern like what the right support is for the labral tear that is suspected and probably going to be confirmed once the MRI is interpreted. And I do not have any idea how to interpret an MRI, so even though I do have the results. If you've ever had to look at an MRI, oh boy, I don't know what I'm seeing. And I even have a little bit of a leg up in looking at x-rays, but not that. So I'm just taking it easy till next week when I have a chance to ask some questions about that. I'll call them up on Monday tomorrow and be like, hey, what does this mean? What should I be doing? What should I have more as an off-limit and on-limit set of things to do? So that's all the updates that I have. Hope that's cool. And what else should I be saying? What else should I be doing? I don't know. Disability rights. Okay. We need to talk about this. We need to say that people with neurodevelopmental disabilities are included in all kinds of data sets without being delineated as such, and therefore human phenomenon that we need to have a deep, thick understanding of are not possibly being given that understanding, and we can be the eternal scapegoats. We can be the people that end up increasing the number of negative and positive outcomes in a data set, but it's happening for very, very different reasons, and the phenomenon gets subsumed by the majority of people. So whatever is going wrong for the majority of people, they assume is going wrong for us, and that is a stupid way to do this. No. Not that it can't ever be true that we're having problems for similar reasons, that we might as well have, the same language and we don't have to distinguish, but we absolutely have to check every damn time, in my opinion. So disability rights means we get included and we get differentiated, and also we don't get over-included into groups with different neurodevelopmental disabilities. We need to have some distinction between the two. There's being many. Between groups, right, of neurodevelopmentally disabled, so that we can share ideas, resources, and have some estimate of if they'll be helpful or not, appropriate or not, apply or not. Instead of just being the weirdos, like, this is not working, just being like, you guys are the weirdos. I'm like, okay, that's not enough insight for us to have any accommodations that make sense, or to start these conversations that need to happen immediately, that should have been happening already, that I'm going to be having with people who don't even know that the conversations need to happen because we haven't been tracking what is happening to our life outcomes. Even though we're experiencing them and talking about them on the internet, we don't have a system of analyzing it in place, and we should. And we can, because this is what we should be using artificial intelligence to do, is to make a more refined data set, and then refine it again, and you make the data set and you adjust the data set based on the data, not based on an ideology that's already been imposed on us and just kind of projected and superimposed over what's actually happening in our lives, what's actually happening due to our disability, what's actually happening with our compensation, compensatory abilities, right? So I don't like being grouped in with neurotypical behavior when I'm not doing that. I'm doing something else. And I also do not like being at the mercy of neurotypical people and the things that they accept as a standard, because it doesn't work for me. It puts me in a lot of danger for them to have their standard imposed on me when I have a disability where I cannot see the things that they take for granted that they use to make these standards acceptable for them. They're not acceptable for me and people with my disability and other forms of disability who have other windows of ability and blocks in what they could ever perceive, right? That's different than mine. I have a different perceptual universe than even other people with neurodevelopmental disabilities. We need to understand that better. So that's my pitch. And why would I talk about that at this specific time? Because we're about to deal with a bunch of extremely doing is arriving, extremely narcissistic people, and they absolutely love to scapegoat and exploit neurodevelopmental people, neurodevelopmentally disabled people, while doing absolutely nothing to improve our circumstances. And in fact, at their preference, I don't think this is necessarily conscious at all, is to make it worse. Is to make our lives worse. Because then they can use us again as a poster child for their stupid interventions that aren't going to do shit for us. But when we're really drowning, that's when they say their latest contraption, their latest snake oil solution is really going to help. So they'll use us as inspiration porn when their bullshit thing that doesn't even really work supposedly helps people who are not doing well. So this is ridiculous, and we cannot have ideologically minded people in various assorted cults, which I think is what it is. I think we have a, I'm going to quote Stephen Hassan, Bandy Exley, and everyone from the World Mental Health Coalition. We have a public health emergency. And the public health emergency is centered in all of the forms of coercive, high control sorts of groups that have emerged with the internet and how the internet is, and our phones and our devices, are currently working. So all of those things that we are currently interacting with on a daily basis, and all the apps and all the billionaire class of people putting out these products and altering them, or anybody in that class of entrepreneurship, as I like to say, all of those folks have no consciousness whatsoever that there's a problem with a new era of cult behavior, cult spreading, and undue influence is what Stephen Hassan calls it, undue influence. So, disability rights. I can't talk with people in a cult. It doesn't work. I've tried to talk to people who live in a couple of different cults. There's so many. I can't do it. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. We need to talk meaningfully about what our actual disability is. And for autistic people, at the end of the day, we don't participate in social groups well. We don't. We can do pro-social things, but many social groups are not pro-social. So the autistic person becomes a tool to use as an example to show what happens when you violate the arbitrary bullshit rules of the group, because we'll violate all kinds of rules because we can't see any of them to begin with, legitimate or not. So once that happens, then you use the autistic person as a scapegoat or as an example. And the abuse escalates on the autistic person specifically. The other thing you can do is obfuscate the needs of the autistic person, the person who has a neurodevelopmental disability, because your ideology doesn't allow for that to be a type of brain that exists. So then you say, we're lying. Then you gaslight us. So we have scapegoating, gaslighting. The other thing that can happen is you exploit the fact that the autistic person is drowning, give them a shit solution that you hold together with just social fabrication, just nothing, just wishes, hopes, prayers. And then the autistic person is being love bombed, thinks it's all working out, and now is the spokesperson for you. Highly motivated spokesperson because they really are having a hard time having an independent life with realistic expectations for an okay future. They don't feel like they're going to be okay because they're not going to be okay, and you guys aren't going to make them okay. You're just going to freaking lie to them, blow smoke up their entire butt, and then you have a spokesperson until you either gaslight them, until you either gaslight or if they realize they're being gaslighted, you scapegoat them. End of the day, the autistic person gets abused as an example of what will happen to all the neurotypical people. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. That dynamic shouldn't even be on the table. That dynamic shouldn't even be what we're dealing with, but it's what's going to happen. It's what's happening. So I'm stuck with America and what America is doing, which is disastrous for the entire species. Without hyperbole there, this is a disaster. But the best way to put it that I appreciate is that we have a public health emergency. Globally, but certainly America is totally responsible for that. And Russia's responsible for probably inciting most of this shit too, which is crazy. But it is what it is. All of that's happening, and we still have a neurodevelopmental disability. That's not going away. All this could go away. All this social behavior of people who take everything for granted, really, frankly, could go away, but we still have our neurodevelopmental disability. We still have everybody else having their real lives. Forget even just the neurodevelopmental disability. We still have neurodevelopmental, neurological, neuropsychiatric, neuropsychological, whatever you want to call it, but like the actual reality, hard nut and bolts of the brains is still there, of all people. I'm feeling upset that a streamer I really like has announced he's quitting. Also, can we talk about the power structure and how to dismantle it and impact has a privilege wheel? I'm not familiar with privilege wheel. I tend to not, just you're probably not surprised at this at all. I tend to not use infographics because I think they don't come from a deep analysis rooted in neuropsychology or neuropsychiatric truth. I think most of those people don't know about the theory of constructed emotions or embodied cognition or predictive coding theory. So I tend to say, if you're going to do philosophy, then you're possibly doing shitty sociology, you're possibly doing ultimately shitty neuroscience, and I don't like it. So I'm biased against that just off the jump. But how to dismantle you have to analyze a power structure and not, you don't use the way that the power structure labels itself to then talk about it. The power structure has already distorted the language, the conversation, the categories. There's category errors is how I would treat that. And the people who are doing that, it's the power structures are also cults, I would say. In my opinion, at this point, I think we probably have to be studying, I'm like in Stephen Hassan. I feel like someone was talking to me, but fishing for info, and in their brains placed me in a position compared to them, usually them boasting about things like a house they own. So if somebody's doing, so I would just say, I would make that real simple. That's doing as arriving. Somebody's doing as arriving at you. Okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, that's how they get their jollies. So I would just say that that's a brain that's broadly speaking addicted to doing as arriving, because you don't even understand doing as arriving. So why the fuck are they talking to you about it? Sorry. Let me make a swear star. Okay. Why are they talking to you about it? We clearly don't know how to do that. Like, look at our entire everything. Look at what we're wearing. Look at how we're standing. Look at what we're looking at. Look at what we're talking about. Look at who and why and what we're doing. We clearly don't know. So why is somebody so compulsively addicted to doing their doing as arriving thing that they're talking to an autistic person about it, or at least a neurodevelopmentally different person? They may not understand how to clock any of this stuff. That's fine. I don't care. Yeah. A stranger, for 5 minutes. Yeah. They're compulsively getting their fix from doing as arriving, telling this to you as if you're even participating. Like, really? Like, tell somebody missing a sense, developmentally missing sense data, ability to interpret or process or understand it, right? Like some of the 5 basic senses is knocked out developmentally, and then you're going to talk about that specific sense and how this person, just why are they even sharing about that? Don't get it. Let's see here. Rich people. Wait. A stranger I had known for 5 minutes, but just divergent personal info, and then I worried that it's caused me to be a victim. I'm vulnerable that she's doing that to me that I'm not doing. Rich people think they have the right to know every little detail about me, but I think that's what they're doing, power stuff. So I ended up using the power grid to try and understand if that's what they're doing to me. Can you share what you're looking at? Because I'll tell you what I think. I think it's a way simpler problem than that. I think some people, so this is why I have doing is arriving. Doing is arriving, doing is building is a system of motivation that I think our brains use that has been described in a lot of different fields. There's different versions of thinking about this, so I'm not the only person addressing this. I've just codified it in this specific way because I think this is a useful metaphor to understand it and to clarify what somebody's doing. So it's an already baked cake. No one's exclusively doing as arriving or doing as building. That's not even us as autistic people. We still move about, okay? So we still have something that we're doing. It's certainly not, or anybody neurodevelopmentally different, this can be impacted is what I'm saying. But are entities doing this when they look at us? Let me look at this. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, they're not. Carl, if you have a second, can you look at this?
Let me see. I got lost in my special interest world. Mm-hmm. What would you like to look at?
This. Start? Yeah.
I gotta read it real quick.
Jamie was saying, Jamie's concerned that neurotypicals doing this when they look at us.
Okay. I should just start at the top then?
Well, they, yeah.
What's that? Who provided that?
Jamie.
Okay, so he's concerned that neurotypicals are performing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then should I read the text or just look at the chart?
You can read the text too. I think that'll probably give you context. And Jamie, as far as I know about your neurodevelopmental status, you are more prone to paranoia. Or we could call it paranoia, right? We could call it something else. Maybe it should have a different name for it because paranoia may be based on a neurotypical brain inappropriately or based on a different brain that doesn't quite fit your dynamic, even though there may be some utility in using that word. But for just for expediency's sake, there's something where we already know your brain is biased towards something akin to that sentiment, right? So it's okay for that to just be what it is. But you also don't want to have that be assumed to be okay. Just go with what your brain is saying as like the default, because it's going to stress you out, and it may be not quite the right framing for you to be functional. Not that you couldn't have a framing that has an analysis in it. It's just the concern is that because we're disabled people, we have to be real picky about our analysis being accurate and supportive of us being functional. So my concern is that would not be supportive of you being functional. Does that make sense? Yeah. Is paranoia a symptom of Asperger's? Yeah, we can definitely do that. Typically no. I already know typically no. But we can have, there's probably, I would assume higher, you may have higher incident of it. I think that might be a secondary thing that comes out of either comorbidities or, paranoia is not typically considered a core symptom of Asperger's. Asperger's is characterized by challenges, or autism spectrum disorder level 1, right? Rename. Asperger's is characterized by challenges with social interaction, restricted and repetitive patterns of behavior, and a focus on specific interests. However, individuals on the autism spectrum can sometimes experience anxiety or social challenges that may lead to thoughts or behaviors that could be mistaken for paranoia. So
we got to define paranoia. And just
that's what I'm saying. I think it's maybe not the best word anyway, which I was kind of saying earlier. Like,
I think we. Here, I'll run it through my.
Let me put what it said into the chat too, so you can see it. So yes and no is like there's like yes and here, which sometimes I think that's you too. So I wouldn't call what you're doing necessarily paranoid. However, for expediency's sake, I can understand why we might just default for now, with the caveat that while we're here, we know we're talking about some other shit. we're talking about something more specific that we don't have good language for. And it would be really nice to have that language accessible in the near future. But for the time being, what I want to note is that we want you to have a functional response to things. And we have a variety of responses like anybody, you know, disabled, neurodevelopmentally different or whatever, or regular people. They also have certain behaviors that are not going to be as life-affirming, enabling, empowering, right? Or enabling you to act. So I would just I'd be a little bit, because you have something going on that causes a response that I think ends up doing some form of distortion, or at least it's almost like you have to think about it too much. That's what's the problem. It's eating too much of your brain space. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that I do appreciate that you come here and we work on it somewhat here, because there's not a lot of spaces for you to do that, and you shouldn't feel ashamed about it. That's not like where you can't share it publicly or have somebody treat you weird about it, or what the heck is that about? And I know that you've probably had experiences with that, and I just want to, you know, really affirm that that's some bullshit. Yeah, identify as stress, anxiety, depression, Asperger, paranoid. That sounds good. Like, you know, as a shorthand, obviously the ideal is that we keep working on terminology, but that communicates a lot quickly. And that's why there's a utility in it, even if the accuracy, I think, needs to be improved. You know, systematically, we have to really be interested in that project, and that's part of your project, which may be a little bit different than mine, but we can still work on it. We can work in a space that we share as people with neurodevelopmental disabilities, even though we don't have all of the same neurological differences. That's not necessary to have these conversations, because we're the ones that are most invested in it. And then we also have our own personal work to be doing. It's not always going to be perfectly relatable, and often won't be relatable in such a way. So I'm offering you perspective as an outsider in some ways. Okay, I wanted to talk about this. This thing, I don't know about that. I really don't. I think this is well, what do I want to say here? Okay. That's weird. I don't like that they split neurodiversity and disability or ability into different things. That's a mind-body dualism. There's a lot of mind-body dualism here, actually, which is interesting.
Which part again?
Huh? Oh, this is separate. So is this. I think that's weird.
The mental health, neurodiversity, and ability.
Yeah.
So, like, able-bodied is like physical ability,
right? Which
is going to be overlap.
I don't like it. But I'm biased towards not liking this. However,
I think it's an interesting concept. I think that maybe I don't know about this.
I think it might be a little bit simplified.
These boundaries. Also, I don't think this is good for people who are autistic to get into either, because it. Okay, so it creates a. This isn't quite a web or dynamic. It actually still creates these harsh categories, and it doesn't make a ton of sense actually at all. It doesn't actually ooh, there's something really missing here, which is specifically the ability to get pregnant or not. That ain't on there. That's not great. Or age. Where's age? Yeah, so it's, you know what I'm saying? It's just gonna, you can expand this endlessly. I don't think that's the solution. I don't think this framework is necessarily sufficient. It may be interesting as an analytical tool. Yeah, there's also families in there. Exactly. So do you really think people's brains are doing this? Like they're working? No, that's not, it's something else. I think this is an attempt to model behavior and thinking, but I don't know if this actually works. I hate simplified infographics also with like a passion. I don't think this is sufficient. But if people find utility in it, that's one. But don't use this as a way to read people's minds or a model of how minds work, because I don't think that's it. It's very unlikely. But thank you for sharing it. But also, yeah, don't assume that people are making a calculation and then they're discriminating against you. People are reaching their own satisfaction and goals. They're not really there. They may see you as a part of how they reach goals or not, but that's about it. Like, they really aren't thinking that deeply about you at all. They're using whatever. I mean, it's tricky. They're thinking about what they want to be doing, and they're going to take you in as, especially in my opinion, if they're doing as arriving, they're not very curious about you. So they don't even really know what they're looking at. I don't know what I'm looking at, because I think you have a really complex neurodevelopmental, what's the word I'm looking for? Like landscape. Oh shit! I've been muted this whole. Hi guys, I didn't realize I was muted on this end. I'm dumb.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can hear it at least.
Anyways, I think you have a really unusual, like you'd be in a minority of a minority neurodevelopmental makeup. I think you're just super unique, so I don't think anybody's really going to be accurately figuring you out, and I think most people won't even try. I really don't. I think they'll just be like, that's weird, and then that's it. And they may some people, I really break it down to, like, some people are gonna have a negative reaction to that's weird, some people are gonna have a positive, some people are gonna be curious, some people are gonna have a concerned reaction, but like people are gonna treat you like the weird guy. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's personal, right? Because like yeah, right? Oh well, like, so then you don't have to mind read them past that, because it's just like, fuck it. It's not helpful, because it feeds into the thing that we're loosely calling for expediency's sake paranoia or whatever, which for you isn't helpful. But in terms of like taking the system apart, let me make sure also that this part is working. Hold on. Hello. Hi.
Yeah, we're getting an echo of what Jane's saying through Kyle's microphone.
Oh, we're in an echo.
I thought I turned it off.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, there we go. Should be good now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi.
Why do you sound scratchy? You sound like, is that me?
I hear it too.
It's probably my fan. 1 second.
Okay.
Does it sound better now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello. Okay, let me turn up this volume. Okay, I think we're good. Yay! Roxy! Hello! So, we're talking about neurodevelopmental disability a little bit, and I'm just sitting here and cleaning my desk while trying to rest my hip a little bit more, and just talking about disability rights going forward. And right now I'm focusing on learning about cult conditioning and undue influence, and I'm just gonna constantly say that what's happening is a public health emergency, and not even mental health. So we're one body. We're not like a brain inside a body vat or something. Like, what the heck? That's
right. Like the separation of mental health from health is sort of weird.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And I think it reinforces the problem with like all these cults that are currently vying for control. Because so what he's saying, Stephen Hassan, is that being in a cult is actually a dissociative disorder. And it's listed as such in the DSM-5. It's a specific kind of dissociative disorder. So what happens is the person disassociates from their original personality, their own body, and then they take on a cult identity.
Interesting. So it's incredibly interesting because, like, if that is accurate, then it completely changes how one should interact with these people to get any results.
Yes.
Period.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Like, that completely changes how you should be modeling anybody who's going through this sort of behavior.
Yep. Yep. Yes. Yes. And that's what he's saying too. Like I'm going to learn, hopefully if he has some courses, and I've been sharing it with like Hip Hop for Change and saying, hey, let's all learn how to do this, to do some amount of deprogramming or support people that will. So basically we're going to have, in the case of MAGA, but I think there's multiple kinds of these cults, because they've been going on the internet in ways that we didn't even bother to look at. So basically almost no psychiatrists or psychologists are taught to look for what's called undue influence. And then we have this explosion of technology. And so it's gone completely unchecked with a population, including experts that should have been keeping conscious of this, who have no education in this. So where's my dog? Is he outside? Oh my god, sorry. Kyle's putting Merlin outside, but now Merlin's all sad because he doesn't like being stuck outside. It's okay, buddy. There you go. You're fine. Okay, so yes, so okay, so that's what's happening, right? So, and exactly what you were saying, just for context. So this is who we're talking to. So what Support Lilith is saying is that we have to address them differently, because if you start saying like, hey, you're weird or stupid, or you're in a cult or whatever, they'll dig down deeper. What you have to remind them of is their original personality. So not the cult personality, the cult identity. You have to have this person remember themselves, and that they've effectively stopped being themselves. And yeah.
And so there's actually a really interesting overlap there, I imagine, with unmasking when you learn that you're autistic as an adult, right?
Yeah.
The way you have to like unlearn this conditioning you've done to yourself that hides who you really are from yourself.
Right.
And then another parallel I saw was that Kyle posted earlier today in Cookies about how he's like replying to all these guys who are doing creepy stuff in comment sections or whatever, and the way Kyle's going about it is like definitely trying to do what you just said about like reminding these people of who they were before the cult.
Right.
Of being like, you used to be a normal human who could have interests, and just like, other than wanting to be a creep or spending all your time posturing to defend this cult, right?
And all of their time is spent brainwashing themselves. So there's manipulation techniques that have gone completely unchecked that people are exposing themselves to. So even what Dr. Hassan was saying was that it is helpful to look at what these people have been watching, so you can understand what their cult conditioning looks like. But even you have to be careful and not watch too much, because this shit is brainwashing.
Right. Right, and that, you know, back when I was talking about memetics, that like ties in and then goes further than I ever did, because I was just, you know, touching my toe into that pool of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with unmasking too, I think it's interesting that like I got my diagnosis and then immediately it was locked down. Immediately, pretty much, because it was like December 19th of 2019. And so I spent a lot of time alone, and also processing people's poor treatment of me and weird stuff that had happened over my life, just without having to take on anything new. And what's happening for people is like they are not getting a break from all of these messages. And for me as an autistic person, or just I would say it's for any neurodivergent people, to be able to say to somebody, you're going to stop throwing that shit on me right now and I'm going to walk away. Being able to say you have this status gives you the ability to do that socially, to say, hey, I'm not going to, you don't even have to say they're ableist or whatever. And that ableism itself might be a form of a cult, right? So, or intersecting cults about supremacy and all this shit that people are supposed to have for reasons that are innate to them, like, and have just basic like biomarkers of like, oh wow, your skin's a color. Like, this shit is crazy and delusional. And I can now say to people doing crazy delusional shit at me, I have a legitimate reason not to hear your shit. Bye. And that's really empowering and important, but we also need to know that it's incredibly important for us as autistic people to step away from that. And even in a very similar sense, Dr. Hassan was saying about the MAGA people, what's going to help them is people that got out of the cult talking to them, because he got out of the Moonies. And what happened was he got in a car accident, like messed up his whole leg, so was in a cast from his hip to his ankle or his foot or whatever. And while he was recovering, his family arranged for some former Moonies to talk to him. So you need people that got out of the MAGA cult talking. So even there's a parallel there where we got out of a cult in a sense, right? There's a broader societal cult that I have critiques about. And now we can say to each other, like, oh, that thing that you believed about yourself or believed about how you needed to behave was a cult identity. That's not who you were or ever were. Like, that's not, even when it was happening, that's not who you really are. So unmasking does absolutely have a parallel there. And we could be speaking about the same phenomenon in different terms. And the pressure that I have felt is that people don't want to believe neurodevelopmentally disabled different people exist. They don't want to believe we are real. Because they needed scapegoats. They needed people to gaslight. They needed people to con and say that their magic thing was going to work, who were desperate enough to be a spokesperson for the brief period of time that you can think that the love bombing is sufficient. So, you know, there's something there. And it's useful to have gone through that in this current era, to talk about how ubiquitous that is and that it's impacted neurodevelopmentally disabled people because we've been taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm still early in my learning the resources that Dr. Hassan has out, but I think he's phenomenal and is something I'm very excited to learn about, and it feels personally meaningful for me because the one and only cousins that I have, my only I have a very small family, almost nothing. So I have no aunts or uncles on my mother's side. My mom was an only child. And on my dad's side, I have an aunt and 2 uncles, and only one of them even has kids. So those are my only cousins. And my aunt is in the Moonies cult and has been since the 80s or something like that. So, it's also relevant to me to hear somebody from that background and look at vulnerability. I know my aunt. She's an autistic person, okay? And autistic people are vulnerable to cults too, and we can get used by cults. And I think there's broader cults in the whole of society that haven't been explored. I think that I don't have the best language for it yet, but what grounds me is saying that it's a public health emergency, and any public health emergency is not going to be good for neurodevelopmentally disabled people as public health emergencies exist today. The kinds that we're having. Right, and Jamie's British and saying that I would say you can say like a Trumpist or MAGA cult members seems good to me. I think it really is. But whatever, that cult is now going to hit that ideology, and the people who are cult members, active cult members, are going to hurt us. On purpose, preferentially, and all that.
Right. Yes, that's good additions, because as we've talked about before, any disconnect from reality and any delusion is harmful.
Yeah.
Just on its own.
Yeah.
So even like people who are in a democratic left-wing cult bubble, they're still going to end up hurting us, but they're not going to do it preferentially or on purpose.
Right.
But because they are delusional from whatever cult such people would be in, are still going to hurt people because
Yes,
they're delusional.
yes, and they
right?
need to be delusional because they need to believe that the way that we treat the human mind currently is sound. So, for example, we act like people are adults at 18. That already is just like out the window. That's not how brains work. So we haven't updated our governments. We haven't updated our institutions to reflect what we know about the brain now. And that's what it is. And who does that hurt? Us. Because that's where our disability is. So they're in denial about what human brains are and how human brains behave. They're in denial about that there is no separation between them and their environment, especially socially. But that doesn't mean that the social environment creates reality. It means that you are not an atomized individual and never were and never will be. You're extremely vulnerable to influence from other people. All of us are. And the thing that's not understood about autism is we are blind to social information, but that is distinct from our social motivation. We still are pro-social. We still are interested in socializing with other people. We get traumatized for that interest.
So, I think saying we're blind to social information is probably a bad way to use language. Not that I know the better way.
Argue.
But,
Yeah,
like,
go for it.
Right? Like, if you are correct about the like source of our autistic issues coming from the lack of global configurational memory creations because of malfunctioning grid cells, then it's not that we're blind to social interaction or whatever you said, interactions or data or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that. One second. I'm going to take just a few seconds of silence to try to. It's that we haven't. So I guess maybe I got hung up on the word blind, possibly, because because we can see it. Like we can see it. What we can't do is work with it, model with it, remember it, and have this like capacity with it.
I guess, yeah.
That other people have.
I accept that.
Does that
yeah, no.
make some sense?
That works for me. I think I'll have to noodle with this, and maybe it's just going to take me learning more about what the disability is, as experts are giving feedback. There's something we don't have, and it's I don't know how to describe it yet. Is the tricky part. It's like the ability to see the information as a grid. See it as a grid specifically. That's what my referent of blind is trying to talk about, but I don't know if that even really works because it's like not modeled.
To talk and to talk about it with like language we don't have, we can talk about like holding. I think because it's memory, and we could talk about holding memory. I think makes sense to us linguistically, and so like we have an issue holding societal
that's tricky for
social
me.
Information or something.
The way that it's held though is its own thing. That's the tricky part. Is like we don't. It's like we don't have hands. Then you see what I'm saying? Like the ability to hold itself, the experience of holding that is also not developed. So that's where I'm like, it's tricky because I think what happened is because the grid isn't there, what the hippocampus normally does, which is to use the grid and the sensory data and to create this new thing. We don't the grid stuff never goes in, so that's not there. So the thing that we have is like completely of a different kind.
Oh, right. So like what it is like what it literally is, right? Is we're missing a kind of modeling.
Yeah.
Which is definitely different than blindness when it comes to like not even literally different, but like as a metaphor it's still quite different.
Yeah, and then and it's another realm. Yeah, it's another dimension. And then and that's why the power grid thing that Jamie shared as a solution, I don't think that's going to work because we it's so absent that any abstract representation of it. This is a real-time thing people are using constantly. We'll never keep up with that demand or be accurate or see insights into their mind. We don't have it.
And like just to go to a random example of like a thing that I would witness socially, right? Like I'd like, oh, you just said this thing that you shouldn't have said because that X just their pet just died or something,
Right.
right? But, and when the person says that, I could then go, okay, that makes sense. Right? Like that's been explained to me and I see why that rule makes sense. But my brain doesn't have the capacity to model that.
Right. Right.
Right. And that's the thing we've never had the language for.
Yeah.
Right. People are just like, you should have done this differently.
Yeah.
And then I could say, and the normal portrayal of autistic people is that they simply can't learn these rules, that it's impossible. But I don't think, well, that's certainly not true for all autistic people. And what it might be is just like some of us are more functional and doing the workaround that our brains are able to do than others.
And
right?
I think it's a language-based workaround. That's what I'm guessing, is that you need to have really high fidelity and an ongoing interest in what words would suit a specific dynamic that you're trying to observe or perceive, and that is actually like useful in some way that we don't even really understand as a species, that I see missing in other people as well. Like I think it's really important for us to emphasize literacy and verbal comprehension and writing, reading and writing, as well as listening.
Right.
But that what we're missing makes it so everybody around us is not able to anticipate what we're doing, and that becomes a problem, and our workarounds are to address that. Right? That we're unpredictable.
And we put so much of our energy into doing these workarounds to deal with the fact that we're unpredictable to others, instead of putting that energy into workarounds that are actually helpful for our disability directly.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And therein lies my antagonism in a sense towards the cult things, or the feelings that I have towards these cult things and the issues they're creating for us, because they're making us have to work even harder at that because they find us useful. They find our unpredictability useful because it obfuscates what they're doing. We're weird. Okay, we can't stop being weird. Okay, maybe the absolute abject nonsense they're saying, it will be given credence because they're trying to explain our behavior with their abject nonsense, and I'm sick of it. That's what I'm sick of. We need literacy about the brain to update all of our structures, because all of those structures impact us as autistic people, and I don't need a snake oil salesman making up magical woo shit while we need help.
Right. I had like a side thought, because you're talking about like we're weird and that attention that comes to us, which makes me think of like peer abuse, aka bullying let's just call in schools or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if the bullies aren't the problem? Like, what if school is the problem, and then it creates bullying because these kids are forced into this environment that they don't want to be in and is horrible to be in.
Yeah.
And bullying is one of the ways that people
100%.
can sort of adapt to this horrific environment.
100%.
Right?
And also, I got bullied for, I don't know how many of us do on some level get bullied for being a teacher's pet, because the one thing we enjoy doing, in my opinion, we're motivated by doing as building or doing as tasting, if you will, for some of the discernment parts. Then the teachers love us, and we're like, oh boy, I get to do the thing I thought this place was for. Yay! And then our lives are over. Like,
right.
Because these kids are like, no, but I hate it here, blah, blah. Why does that kid like it here? Because we're using the one adaptation that we have to experience motivation, and then that gets destroyed in an environment for 8 hours a day.
Right. Right. And like I still can't enjoy learning to the degree that I know I should be able to.
Right.
Because of the trauma of going through that system for so long.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
Yeah.
I relate to it too. Like, I mean, I really should be reading books more often. Oh, that actually is a good segue to one of the things I'm doing now. So after sunset, no more faces on the internet. I'm not going to look at any more people.
Oh, excellent.
Right. Because there's no way that's good. But also, I need to have time to do reading or special interest engagement in build. I need time to do building, and that's good. Kyle,
What?
you look, read. Yay! Please pet dogs. Do pet dogs. Pet dogs for recovery. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah, I have trouble actually putting any like new habits I try to invent into practice, but I have fiddled with the idea of like no screens before sundown.
Love it. Yeah.
Right. Because of course, like we talk about all the time, like every sort of solution you're going to put together as an autistic person is going to be one size fits you.
Yep.
Where you're right, like it has. Yeah, we're we're very unique individuals.
Yep.
Because our brains have to adapt to all this stuff, like everything we talk about. Yeah.
But yeah. So that one's I'm a little bit in the weeds a bit, but why did I want to share about that? Oh yeah. So I need to develop my love of learning even more now, because at this point I'm like, okay, you guys aren't going to believe that love of learning and love of doing is building is the most important thing in the world until I show you what somebody who's developed at that looks like. You guys are a mess, and I'm gonna have to be in contrast to that. Not even contrast. I'm going to have to exist on a different dimension and be like, hey, doesn't it look nicer to be this instead of a fake thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hold on a second. You can do it sooner than that. Okay.
If it leads to it.
Yeah. Kyle wants to introduce a feminist discussion, which I'm always down for.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, and Jamie, like an hour at the end of the day, screen time only, and assigning tasks for waking up prior. Yeah, and then the one thing I want to point out is specifically, do not make yourself have to interpret the voice. Okay, Jane, the voice and face of a person that you don't actually know past freaking midnight, because there's no way that's normal for a brain to do. Like, in what universe at what time can you imagine any animal having to deal with that? Like, just a penguin being like, here's 1,000 penguins all night long. Like, what?
They're strangers, by the way.
Right. Stranger penguins that you ain't never seen. The hell are we doing?
That may or may not be hostile.
Yeah. That you now have to assess the threat. The threat is not, I don't even know what we're doing. Just on the basis of that alone, I'm like, the hell is this? I don't know. Doesn't seem to be going very well, so I'm just gonna, and I need more time to work on my doing is building stuff, so this is a couple of birds with a couple, one stone.
Right, and like, I've occasionally, very occasionally, I scroll on YouTube Shorts, and I end up finding lots of videos in that process that I like, and I even usually share them on Discord.
Yeah.
But when I try to look at that behavior outside, semi-objectively, I'm just like, well, what is this accomplishing? Why am I ever letting myself be fed by this dopamine machine that is structured like a Skinner box of like, you have to keep scrolling because some of them are duds that you don't like the video, but
right.
Sometimes you get the good one and it's so good you want to tell everyone about it. So like it is hooked up to give me some very good rewards while being inconsistent, which means it affects our brains in a way that makes us do it more and more often, right?
Yep.
And because you're talking about the at night thing, right? Mm-hmm. And like there's no way that your brain should be getting dopamine hits in that manner,
right?
When you're preparing to go to bed soonish, right?
Yep.
Like that's not at all what should be happening.
I have an extension of my my ghost ship thing that I was talking about. Some people are ghost ships. Yes. Okay, we're going nautical and we're pirates now. So
yes, awesome.
We go. This is what all those like YouTube shorts, TikTok, Instagram, all of this, YouTube itself. It's a treasure map island, and it's cursed. There are some treasure maps on this island that actually lead to treasure, but most of them lead to more treasure maps, and now you've got 50 treasure maps, which might even be the tabs you have open.
Right. Oh, right. Oh, that tabs thing. is important because what's happening is the curse of the treasure maps is that you no longer follow the treasure map
Yes.
to see what
Yes.
the treasure is.
Yes.
So it's worse than the fact that they're not all going to treasures.
Yes,
like
because
that's
you know
bad
they're
enough, but
not.
that's reality.
Now you know they're
right?
not. You know some of them do go to a treasure, but now you're
Right.
gonna assess 50 treasure maps. You know, like you're ever gonna have time because all you're gonna keep finding is treasure maps. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And then you find some deposits that have 50 treasure maps already, and you're like, well, I already have 100 treasure maps I have to go through. I guess let me just make sure. Like you think you're getting better at treasure map assessment through this, but you're not.
Right.
Because it's
You're
all
not.
it's a curse, and so yeah, sometimes we may need to go to Treasure Map Island and get something that's only on Treasure Map Island. Fair. Like I want to look up something about ballet. Fair. But I need to not get distracted by the constant cursed treasure maps on Treasure Map Island.
Right. And this is a thing where I can suggest like some tools. So if you are like using YouTube on a web browser, you can install an ad block software, but then use it to select the sidebar that has whatever you call it, the recommendations, right?
Oh.
And then it will block out all those recommendations so that you
Wow.
don't have that one way of getting sidetracked onto new treasure maps.
Can you
Right.
can you show me how to do this, or like I need like a
Yeah.
video guide. I need
Sure.
to do that.
Yeah, we could do that after stream.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh,
I have just realized I need to pee, so I'll be right back. Whoa. Okay. I feel so bad when Merlin's gotten all cute by my feet. He's like, I'll sit right by you. And then if I'm going to move, he's going to be distraught and move too. Even though I'm coming right back. I can't be like, Merlin, just stay where you are. It's okay. He's like, no, what if
Right.
you never
He's like-
come back?
yeah. Yeah.
Merlin, oh, buddy. Oh, dog. Oh,
That
dog.
is that dog has attachment trauma, probably.
Yes. Also, I have learned because my hip is deformed and like I have dysplasia.
Remember, guys,
What?
this coming Friday
Oh, my mom. Hold on a second.
is the wedding.
I know.
Okay.
My brother's getting married.
We're all going in Kyle's car
Yep.
because he can have. Well, actually, there's only 4 of us, but anyway, we're all going together.
Sounds good to me. Okay, my brother's getting married. Okay, so as I was saying, he is so cute. My dog. So I've always liked quirky animals, right? And I really love my dog. I'm like, he's so cute. Why do I love him so much? And then I found out that I have dysplasia, and my dog also has all these bony deformities. I'm like, do I just like things that are deformed, like I'm deformed? Like, is that what's happening? Because I think it is. Okay, all right. Not to knock on everybody and everything that I like, but it is possible that you too have a bone deformity. I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, this is great. Okay. So go to YouTube to test this extension. Oh, okay. Do. Do, do, do.
What?
Do, 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 do. Jane will be back in a minute. Everybody who's watching. Do, 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 do. I am just waiting. Do, do, do.
I hope that was autistic isn't too.
Do.
Right with that, by the way, looking through the account.
Yeah, and the person that you seek to impress.
Oh, and the person you seek to impress?
Yes.
Do.
All right, I'm back.
Hi, Jane.
Hello.
So there's a specific extension for Chrome that will let you remove so many parts of the YouTube website.
Love this.
Right?
Get
So
it.
like this is, I have it set up right now that it shows you the video underneath the name of the video and then the info box and nothing else.
Wow.
And this actually goes back to what we were talking about like 2 years ago with stations and how as autistic people, it is way more useful to have specific things for specific uses instead of like multi-uses, right? So like you can have YouTube set up to just play YouTube videos that you already know that you want to watch.
Wonderful.
And you can go and you can search for videos and that's it. There's no recommendations or anything.
This is exactly what I want. Okay, how do I do this? I'm gonna set it up right now.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple through just, I linked it in the chat for Housekeep-a-thon.
Wonderful.
You just install that link that has the extension for Chrome browser, and then
Thank you.
it'll tell you on screen
And
how to.
I'll tell you also why I'm doing it. I was saying this to a number of people, and I will say this, refine it if necessary. I did not marry an abusive man, so I'm not going to be held hostage to listen to one for 4 years. Are you out of your mind?
Right.
Wonderful. This is exciting. Add to Chrome. Add extension. I love it. Hi.
Right, because if your computer screen puts up videos of this abusive guy doing abusive things, you're going to have the instinct to click on them and learn more about them. But why? What are you going
Right.
to do with that information
Right.
other than be like get the emotional abuse
Yes.
put into your brain as well?
Yes. Yes. Brainwashing. Look at it! Oh wow! Yo!
Right. So like the workaround that like where I use ad blocks, I figured out how to do like years ago because website design has gotten so sloppy, where it's just so much on so many websites, and I'm like, I just want this specific thing here. Can I hide the rest? And it turns out yes. Right.
Wow. Well, thank you. This is great. Oh, great. I'm just gonna look up pirouettes. Wait, whoopsie. Let me spell it because I totally know. Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Yup. Yup. Oh, it feels so good. And then I'm gonna click on this one. This is even a
Tips
short.
for better pirouettes. So, make
Oh,
Yours,
it just gives me the other
Miriam.
search results. La!
tips for better pirouettes.
Wonderful. Yes. It just gives me the search results that I actually wanted well, now it starts to go
Oh,
off the rails.
awesome.
Well, it goes off the rails eventually, but at first it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Tips for better pirouettes.
But that's okay because they're fighting algorithms, so it's fine. Good.
Yeah. Let me.
Goody. love it. Okay, I'll look at that later. See, that's a treasure map I can actually follow to a treasure.
Right.
It's okay to have a treasure map.
And okay, yeah, and so there are settings for this extension,
Oh boy.
and one of them blocks out all shorts and
Interesting.
only shows you actual video results,
Tips.
because then you won't be going into that screen that can get you scrolling down
Yeah.
going off treasure map.
Yeah. That works for me too. I may adjust this for the time being. I think I'm okay. Well, I don't know. Depends.
I took the stance of like, how many of these things can I turn off before I lose functionality that I want?
Yes.
Right. And so the only things I don't have hidden are the top header that includes the search bar
Yeah.
and the video info description.
Wow.
Right. I want the description in case there's links in there I want to click on.
Yes.
And I want to be able to search. Right. And that's it. I don't want notifications. I don't want like comments or recommendations or any of that stuff.
Yes. Oh, can I turn off the comments? I want to turn off the comments.
Yeah. So
Oh boy.
yeah. So on the top right, there should be like a puzzle piece icon for your extensions in Chrome.
Yes. Great.
Right. And then if you click the pin next to unhook, that'll bring its little like
Manage
thing up.
extension. Yes.
Then you could click on it and you could turn off many things.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could you could disable annotations so you don't even see videos that are linked within the video you're watching. Like those pop-ups won't show up.
Okay.
To like go watch my other video or whatever.
Oh, cool.
Right, and like hide home feed. So when you go to the home page, it's just blank. It's not recommending you anything.
Wow. Okay, wait. Where is this part? Where is that at?
So there's like the little icon within extensions for unhook. It's like
Yeah.
a play button.
Yeah.
And so the top one, hide home feed, is what gives you like the sort of blank home page.
Okay.
But yeah, like I suggest turning on all the little blue sliders to block everything that you don't specifically need.
Okay.
Right. Which like you probably want the description for the video in case there's words in there you want.
Right.
And you want the top header so you could search, but I don't know what else here you're actually.
I'm looking through.
Yeah. Like you might want the channel not hidden, so that like you can go to the person's channel.
Right.
But I was like, I don't need that. I can
Cool.
like if I want to find out the person's channel, I just go back to the search page. It's still listed there,
Yeah.
right? Like
So cool. Okay, I found it.
and so I was just like, yeah, I'm just
Hide
the less stuff,
recommend.
the better. Minimize
Oh,
what's
just hide the
assaulting.
whole sidebar. Absolutely, yeah. Hide. What's
Yeah.
end screen feed? Oh, I'll just hide. I don't care what it is. I'll just hide it. Hide merch tickets offers. Hide. Hide notifications. Yeah, I don't need to hide in-app.
Right. Oh, I didn't even realize it did that. That's great. Hiding the end screen cards means that it doesn't show you 9 videos when you're watching ends, because normally the video play area becomes like links to more videos.
Hide in-app search results. What does that mean?
Hide in-app. So those are search results that are not good,
Tips for
I
better
guess.
pirouettes. So,
Okay, let's see. If I click that, does it
This-
stay on pirouettes? It stays on pirouettes.
this is not.
I have to admit.
No, it starts
Okay.
to go crazy.
So that is showing a lot of sponsored stuff. I hide in-app search results. Does it still show all the sponsored? It does.
Okay.
Tips for better
I
pirouette.
don't know what the in-app search results part
Okay,
is.
well,
doing.
I'm gonna turn that off because I don't know what it does. So we're just gonna go with turn it off. This has
Yeah.
been great, y'all. If
I
chat's doing
realize
anything,
I-
I've just been so about this. Yeah.
I'm just like, my Chrome doesn't have an ad block on it, so I'm definitely gonna install one of those.
Oh, Jamie, that's what I wanted to say too. Okay, Jane was saying, I'm using extension from now on. Brilliant. Right? Let's all go. Okay, a problem has been because of my issue of not being able to drop topics. Recursion. If the algorithm puts things into my brain, I end up doing that thing later or talking about it to someone or projecting. Right. Or being reactionary. Right. And that's why we got to be careful as neurodevelopmentally different people, is like all these people are also getting hella brainwashed, and they don't care that it's like totally screwing us over, because they're like, I kind of function still as things go off a cliff, right? They're like, but I'm still driving the car as they go off a cliff, but we don't even have cars to drive. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We're just stuck in the trunk of their damn car, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being held hostage by it. So this is great. All right, I'm excited. Let's all check back in next week how this is treating us in life. Can this, oh man, but you can't get it on your phone, right? It's just on the, that's okay though. We shouldn't be using it on our phone. How about that? I'm gonna block YouTube on my phone. Let's just do that.
The extension unhook one that I just told you about, it works on Android phones, which I don't think
Hell
you
yeah.
have. But,
Okay. Yeah, I have a iPhone, but Kyle has an Android, so he can enjoy that. That's all right, you know. Okay. Paste that. Okay. All right. Let me go here, and all right. Let me finish checking some other things. Well, this is great. You might need to refresh browser tab for it to look up in the new restrictions. Oh, you're right. Maybe I do. Actually, that's a good point. Let me do that.
Tips for better pirouettes.
I do think it improved it a little bit. Maybe. No, now we're looking at pumpkin seeds and stuff. I'm good. Aw. Older women learning point for the first time. We love it. Okay, so anyways. There's like a gray-haired lady doing point, and I love it. Okay, anyways. What am I doing? What am I doing? Alright. And off I go here. Kyle, I didn't see the last thing that you wrote. Did I? I think I was like locked in.
I can show you later.
Okay, show me later, please. This is great. Disable autoplay. It's on. Disable annotation design. Hide subscriptions. I guess I'll hide that. Hide. Yeah, no, I want to hide that. Yeah, hide explore trending. Yes. Hide video sidebar, that's all on. Hide end screen, hide that. Hide short. Well, no, I'm gonna keep shorts. Hide comments. Hide mixes, I don't even know what that is. Hide merge tickets. Hide video info. Oh, I'll leave that on. Hide top header.
So that's the search bar.
Oh.
The header is, yeah.
I'll just hide notifications, but not that. Okay, I think that, let's try this one more time. Sorry about the noise, y'all.
Honey, I know you're probably still mad at me, but I got you some presents.
Stupid. Okay, alright. Alright, pirouette, search. Okay, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Yay. Wonderful. Oh, it's just so, it's like, wow. It just looks real different. This is good. Let me just open YouTube up one more time. Uh-huh. Wonderful. Oh, yeah. That's the shit right there. Just nothing. Oh! Alright, well, my brain feels good. Thank you. Okay. Let me try to keep cleaning my desk. As hard as that is, because I can't move very much. Oh, man. Oh, Kyle, can I see? Are you still going? Oh, he's working on stuff. He's working on some feminism. We love it.
Okay. Oh yeah, Shadow says thanks for body doubling. Definitely,
Yay!
you know, of course. I'm going to share screen, Jane, so you could see
Yay.
what I'm just about to set up. So
Wow.
tell me when you're watching.
Let's Just booting up. Yep, watching.
Yeah, so I installed Adblock Plus onto my Chrome, which is just this one. Shadow linked it. But with it installed, I go to a YouTube. Because I do a search for pirouette, it's still giving me these sponsored videos. Right.
Oh.
So I click Adblock Plus, I pull it open, I click Block Element, and then I click here on this first sponsored video, and it creates this line of text. But if you scroll down, you can see it's highlighting all the sponsored videos.
Oh, sponsored videos!
So I add this block, and now
Boy.
I don't get sponsored videos showing up.
Wonderful.
Because that line of text, it looks into the HTML and finds out how they are, making the sponsored ones stand out, and then it blocks them.
Great. Okay, let me go do that.
Right. Because
Okay.
the websites send you the information for how they want you to look at the website, but
Yep.
then you can just toss aside the parts you don't want using
Okay, let me go do
the
this
power
right
of
now.
programming.
Add to
Yeah.
Chrome, add extension. Okay. That's great. What is bodily doubling? Okay. Does anyone want to take this?
Body doubling is when you are in a space or a virtual space with other people while you do tasks with your body. So, it helps you get those tasks done when you would have trouble doing it otherwise for some unknown psychological reason.
Yeah.
Right? So, if you have trouble doing the dishes, you could find that it's a lot easier to do them when listening to a podcast or being on a live call with other people.
And the best thing about it is you do not need to know why. It doesn't matter. Because then you don't
Right.
have to worry about evolutionary psychology doing whatever the fuck is doing. So yeah,
Right.
for some reason, humans you can think of us as incredibly social, and we're not an atomized species, and for whatever reason, if you do stuff with other people, you do better. And you would even do better at things that you shouldn't be doing if you do them with other people. So use that awareness. Okay. I'm doing this, and this, and this. And these are my instructions for my Tamagotchi. I'm gonna look through mail. Ah! Almost fell over. Okay. Alright. So, okay. Kyle, can I see update on that?
Yeah, I'll be alright over. I may get a couple things on.
Okay.
with the-
Kyle's gonna take on some feminism stuff at round 2, I think is the plan. And then that will be
Awesome.
nice. Yeah. Would anybody like to process anything that happened in the course of your brain dealing with this week? Because I want to leave a little just unrestricted space to just talk about that. So node, if you will, new things, old things, all things, do things. So if you would like to node this week a little bit in a space where other people know kind of vaguely what that is, what is that? You think about the new things that have happened recently, then you think about old things, all the things that have happened so far, and then you do a synthesis, and then you then will automatically want to do a thing. So we're giving you doing is building motivation support. I'm always thinking about the many topics you guys covered today. I am glad to hear this. And I encourage you to continue to. Even though society will be like, but what about making a widget in the widget factory? No. We can just be like, no, we have enough widgets, thank you. They're like, no, but the widget factory is still open. But the widget factory smells like human remains. Oh, that's okay. Just come on in. It's great here. No, I will not. Oh, I have a new system, y'all. So I got some friendship bracelets, and then I had to look up how to do a sliding knot so that I can slide them on and off. and I have all of my Roy G. Biv color coding system for tasks on my left hand that I'm not doing, that that haven't come up or have passed, and then the one that I'm active is on my right. So my right one is currently yellow, and I also decided to make. So I started my system at 7 a.m. and I started doing 2-hour blocks, right? And then I decided that was too early. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll start at 9. So I shifted it all down, which makes sense. But admin is the first one because it's the hardest. It's 4 hours now. So it still starts at 7, but I have a 4-hour window to try to deal with admin stuff since that's my most extreme disability, dyspraria, dysequentia, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, they're cute little, I got them from Etsy. And also I was supporting somebody that's like definitely like LGBTQIA friendly because it's a rainbow set. So I'm sure they're kind of like, yay, it's for Pride. I'm like, kind of, sort of, but also like, I don't mind it also reading as Pride. Who cares? Like, yay. But that was sweet too. They did it in all like gel pens in every color of the rainbow. Little thank you note. I like buying from Etsy people. Anyways, but they made these cute little skinny friendship bracelets. So that's my system to keep track of what's going on. And I'm currently on yellow because it is my personal tasks window, which it doesn't mean I have to do them during that time, but I have a reminder that those are things that can exist, which I need every day, all the time. Alright, and then I got this to put away. Makeup to put away. Okay, I'm making some moves here. So yeah, if you needed to know, my week has been awful, so the election isn't on the top of my mind. Yeah, mine also, it kind of everything was happening. A lot is happening. I've had other people in my life that had other things happen in the same week, like deaths and all kinds of shit. All kinds of shit. The other way to note or to think about noting is like a resin-filled straw. Reality is a resin-filled straw. So this gives you a way to think about time that isn't just simply a timeline, because the resin has objects embedded in it, and that's like reality itself, events that have occurred. But you can have projections, so it's like a guess or a distortion that people project into the resin-filled straw of like there is this thing embedded in the resin-filled straw that maybe isn't there, or we need to check if it's there, we need to clarify, or it's a placeholder, whatever, right? So that allows for all those conceptual devices. And then if you have the type of mind I'm saying is you look down the resin-filled straw and you see the pattern of it all. So that's also node, new things, old things, all things, do things. But I would highly encourage you, if you can say some specific new things and what old things come up, right? The things that were just embedded in the straw, the things that had been embedded in the straw. Maybe you clarified some stuff that was embedded in the straw that you had just projected or holographically held a placeholder, and now you can fix that. Right? So like there's that with for example, with my autism diagnosis, oh boy, was there a lot of holographs in my straw. And I was like, oh, that's autism. Oh, that's autism. Oh, that's autism. Okay. Well, now I finally know. I don't like things on my wrist. You know, it's pretty light for what it is. I feel like sensory wise, it's not bad, but I could see like if it's just a no-go, it's a no-go. As far as things go, I was like, okay, I'm pleasantly surprised that this is hard to notice and feel. But I also can wear watches and jewelry, so I have a little bit of ability to do that. However, there's other ways I think to do this. I just am fascinated by this particular one. Maybe at some point this could become a real thing, and there's like maybe a really really skinny stacking ring set, because you like, and you don't have to use my system necessarily. But if you wanted to know what tasks you're on, if you could then switch the ring for that over to the other ring. To your right hand, the active hand. And also, you know what I found really nice about it? So I just got these in yesterday, and then I figured out how to make them and made them right away. And then it was bedtime, which is a non-block, and then I had nothing on my right wrist, and I was like, oh, I don't have to do anything then. Oh, that feels good. Permission to do nothing? Yes. So also that was something I did not anticipate, having such a neurologically like satisfying response. That was very cool. So I'll keep y'all posted if I'm like, this is actually incredibly brilliant and there needs to be versions of this, even if a wrist solution isn't the best one for you. just yawn a bit. Yeah, bracelet you took with your other wrist. I like that, Rock. Yeah, that, but it is tricky. These are, I think they really are light enough. The sliding design that I went with, maybe there was a better sliding design, because there's some little like tendril things or tassel-y looking things off the edge of them, and I probably could make them even shorter, which I may decide to do, but for now it's okay. I wasn't trying to make it so short that getting it off was like a whole ordeal. Right now it's kind of comfortable to get them on and off, but you know, hands learn how to do skills with enough repetition, so I'll let these go with this amount of you know, extra stuff, but they're without that they would be super dummy light, but with it it's a little bit more noticeable, but I think it's possibly fine. And I probably wouldn't wear them during like ballet or something, like, or I would, you know what I could do? I'd take off the left ones if I was in a class or something where I was like, it's a little awkward, and leave on just the one. Or if I want to, yeah. Or, you know, if I'm in something that like, it's a transitional space, right? Like I'll be going through my normal breaking point because it breaks on the odd numbers, like 7, 9, 11, 1, right? Well, now it's like 7 because I gave a 2-hour or 4-hour block. 7, 11, 1, 3, blah, blah, blah. I could have like yellow to green if it's something that I'm doing between like 1 and, I don't know, 4 or something. But having it on my body is working for me because I really want this to be like, now I'm this kind of thing. Like emphasize that these aspects of myself, these traits of myself, is what I am built of in specific like highlight during certain times. Okay, let me read this. Did they say more to you? Good.
Like a giant fucking chicken.
Giant chicken.
And then I ran off into the woods like a giant fucking chicken, mate. Excuse my French. Like a giant chicken, mate. See, instead of saying the F word, just say the first word twice.
Oh yeah, carabiner's a fun one.
Huh?
Carabiner as an option for like tracking if you wanted to use a color system for tasks. Yeah. I'm going for like embodied literalism, if this kind of makes sense, where I want to have as many embodied metaphors that get into like embodied sense. Okay, there's embodied metaphors that are conceptual, and there's embodied metaphors that we like physically act out. I'm trying to like merge that together. So like if I'm active and actively doing something, to have that on the wrist of my dominant hand is like, oh, like what is my hand doing? Because my metaphor for like engaging with things, and this is why I want something that ultimately is like a tracker for how long you are engaging with something, and then how long it's been since you put it down, is that we're picking it up and we're using it and manipulating and engaging with it, and then we put it down. And instead of saying like, oh, at this time I'm supposed to be doing something, or at this time I'm supposed to stop doing something, which is doing as arriving, I'm going to say, oh, how long have I interacted with this thing? Okay, how long has it been since I've interacted with this thing? This is a more sensible way to organize life. If you have doing as building dominant strategies, which I think we should have more people as that, because if you have doing as arriving, I'm telling you, you become crazy. Like, it's too much. You gotta have it way down regulated into a manageable range. Every neurotypical person that exists right now. Because they're all like sane washing how crazy it makes them. Dude, no. They're like hella not reasonable to deal with and actually really dangerous. And not able to notice when someone's like dangerous, because it's like, oh, wasn't this behavior what we all do? I'm like, maybe you shouldn't all be doing that behavior. Have you ever considered there's like a different behavior you could be doing? Like, why did you go with that one? Oh, it was convenient for our brain. It just made us feel like this was fine, that we get all of our high and hits from arriving at finish lines. I'm like, all right, well, that clearly is stupid, because what does that imply? Oh, the person that's physically abusive is the one that's the default leader / person in authority or whatever. Oh, that was stupid. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? What is possibly going wrong? Anyways. It's nice to see you too, and thank you. And I'm happy I'm here too. And we're gonna have more stuff during the week. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen as soon as it can, and it will get refined. Ooh, I had another thing I wanted to share before we possibly pivot to feminism time. So I also think we need to change how we interact online. If you do interact with the comment section and you see anybody that we can the people formerly known as trolls that I think are cult members trying to brainwash themselves all the time, that person, if you say anything at all, it's, hey, we weren't doing that here. I don't know what you're doing here, but we're doing something else. You're basically walking into the middle of like a very specific space and taking a shit on the floor. Like you're walking into the library and being like, isn't this where I shit on the floor? Pfft, no, that's not what we're doing. And then what you do instead, and you don't even have to do that part. You can just ignore them, probably even better. But you don't ignore the person that actually made the content, that made the helpful thing, that is doing the thing that you're all supposed to be doing, that you all want to be doing. And then you give the person that either made the content itself or a helpful comment that got the troll, quote unquote troll, the cultist going after them. The person that made the helpful content or made the helpful comment, you give them feedback. Every single time. Every single time. Because that will enable that person to continue to build and to do what they were doing, including people like me. So if you see anything negative, if anybody comes in here a troll now or in the future, what I ask you to do is to give me feedback on what we're actually talking about and what we're actually doing. And if necessary, I have mods that can simply say, that is not what we're doing here. You seem to be unable to tell what's happening around you. So we're gonna remove you because you're not well. You're having an emergency. You're having a health emergency right now where you don't know where you are. So we're gonna see you out, sir. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Okay, I'm gonna be right back. I have to put some things in the bathroom. And that's the way I would put it too. Is like, hey, we're gonna remove you because don't even say a mental health emergency. You're having a health emergency where you don't know where you are because we're not there. That's not where you are right now, and you seem to be unable to tell where you are. So we're gonna see you out, and we hope you figure that out. Thank you. There's people that can help you with that. They cost about $100 an hour. In fact, serious talk, like, okay. At this point, what is going wrong? Wait, what? What's going on? Okay, let me just read the thing and stuff. Okay, I'm kind of actually, well, I have to, me and going back and forth multiple times because I didn't pick up the thing I actually meant to move. Okay, a part of what made it easier to disconnect from my social media stuff is that I realized even my closest friends were just sharing information that I could easily get anywhere else, and that was very disruptive to my day. Yeah, like stuff I was actively avoiding being shared by people I couldn't avoid. Yep, because I was checking my socials for other reasons. Lack of control over the feed is one of the biggest issues, and I guess yes, because it's the lack of the control and also the fact that so many people are like in complete awareness in some cases and in complete ignorance in others, but it really doesn't matter because the intensity is pretty much the same. People are trying to brainwash other people. So don't sit. It's not just even a lack. The feed is a brainwashing tool. I will have a more refined explanation of that once I get into the work of Dr. Hassan. But that is my impression so far. There's a podcast I plan on watching today that gets into that, about what is really going on there and why. And it's like how intentional it is doesn't even matter. That it is all that matters. So like with complete impunity, brainwashing. So therefore, we don't deserve that, especially in this situation where it's abusive males who are trying to have a cult of themselves and whoever they legally bind to them, and anybody that they force that person to have to be the mother of, in my opinion, is how that goes. All right. All those people, they're trying to be a cult leader in a micro cult. So they're all about brainwashing, because they are not going to be having a micro cult if they don't brainwash successfully one female person of reproductive age. Just saying. So some of that you're seeing like, that's fine. So what else is fine? If that's fine, what else is fine? There's no standard. There's no limit. The limit does not exist.
We have to find the limit. How far can we take this?
Right. Yep. It's getting real, like, cult recruitment is getting real desperate, is all I'm saying. And there's different kinds of it, and there's different agents who are doing whatever they're doing intuitively. Probably people who are extremely antisocial, like pathologically antisocial, have some instinct for this. Like, that's the one and only skill they've developed, is to brainwash people and look for people to brainwash. Speak in a way that's like hypnotic, like all that is something we can be aware of. And it's not like a magic boogeyman spell. It's just saying that, like, we don't have a literate society when it comes to the brain, and our models of the brain are just like osmosis in, and it's mostly abusive people, quite clearly, that have been dictating our reality and trying to groom you to speak with the language of the abuser, because that is exactly what happens in domestic violence. In domestic violence dynamics, the woman usually and the children speak with the words of the abuser to the therapist, she has even the shelters, right? They're still speaking with the language of the abuser that the abuser has told them over and over and over, and corrects their language and changes it again to his narrative. And that's what they come out talking like. So when you're like, why do all my friends sound the same? I'm just going to plant a seed that you might be noticing something like the dynamic I'm talking about. That's possible, and maybe likely, and maybe all it really is for the most part. And that could be a co-option of other social instincts to make sense. We do reality testing with each other, right? So what does healthy reality testing look like? Not that, but maybe we compulsively have to do something that makes it feel like we're reality testing. And that leaves us vulnerable to speak with the voice of the abusive person and all of the grooming and pre-grooming that was done by our society, to accept that narrative as reality. And then when we're empowered about that, we can have conversations with other people, like all of us are doing. I feel pretty good about everybody here, like really good about everybody here, that we're inoculating each other against this, and that I don't have to. I can trust the people here. I may be able to trust somebody who happens to be listening to this, who's like really invested in it, who hasn't introduced themselves yet, or whatever, or somebody we'll meet in the future when we're doing the same project. This is what we're doing, right? And this is what we gathered to do in the space. So we may meet some new friends along the way, and we may again have to say to somebody, oh, okay, so we're not doing that. Somebody's failed at reality testing on a level where they don't even know what we're doing here, because they're completely dissociated and living in their fugue state and projecting that out. What we're doing is trying to say, like, what are things really? Where are the category errors? And right now we're dealing with people who just do not want to let go of a specific category that they think they belong in that's superior, without any evidence that the little man behind the curtain can do shit. So it's really important that we say, like, this is what we're doing. And as we do it, we try to have actual, like, outcomes. We're trying to originate something that is a successful way of interacting with the world. And if we're going to be successful, we have to have some conceptual labels that are functional about the world, right? And we're saying those are not functional labels. And what does that lead to? Abuse by default, because you have to abuse the person into pretending that your labels are cohering to reality, are predictive of reality. And when you know, the end of the world doesn't happen again, or you don't become a cyborg on Mars, you know, then you can finally say, oh, this is nonsense, right? So we need to be able to say, well, we're going to build things that we are confident in. And then I also get to feel confident in you. And hopefully you get to feel confident in me. But even then, because this skill is so atrophied and not taught, I would rather you have false negatives or false positives, or is that the right one? Wait, it's be false positive. Yeah, false positives. Sorry, I got a little confused there. A false positive on me being like a bad kind of person, like a brainwashing cult kind of person, whatever. I'd rather somebody have a false positive, and that's going to happen, has happened in my life. It'll happen to you. It's not even an insult. We don't have to chase after them being like, please approve of me. No, keep that instinct. We haven't been taught to do it. Keep that ability and try to refine it as best you can to your capabilities. But we're in a mess. So I can't even say, like, there's a refined strategy here, and I'm trying to learn some of it from Hassan. I enjoy the fact that you seem to be able to handle difficult concepts without going super doomer. Yeah, there's no point in going super doomer. I think that's okay. In my opinion, I think it's a coping mechanism to say that even though I feel extremely threatened, I can take myself out before you take me out. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. We all know we could take ourselves out. Yeah? Great. Very, very, very established, like, and a baby can take themselves out. Like, we can take ourselves out. I don't need to stand there saying, like, no matter what, I can still take myself out. What the fuck? Why am I thinking about myself that way? Instead of appreciating what I actually have as my features. That's a feature that, like, almost all human beings have, with the limited exception of people that some aspect of the way that they were able to control their brain and body, that's not available. But almost everybody on the planet has the capacity to take themselves out. What a boring feature for me to be obsessed with. There's so many other features that I could be interested in. Why do I need to be forced by threatening people to fixate on that one? It's already there. Yeah. I'm more interested in the things that my society is not aware that are universal traits to the species that most people have, that I also have, or is not aware of the unusual traits that most of the species doesn't have, but I do. Right? Does that make sense? The contrast here. Exactly. And the space that you're freeing up in your activities, your cerebral activities, your physical activities. Okay, let me explain this again. So somebody's going doomer, right? What they're saying is that I could take myself out before you can take myself out. I don't avoid, so I have, all right, if somebody's saying I can take myself out before you can take myself out, I'm saying that is an incredibly unremarkable fact about humans. Most humans can do that, right? So that would be like, it would be the same as me fixating on the fact that I have skin, right? Very unremarkable quality, very well established. We don't talk about it a lot because we have to say things like unalive, okay? Very unremarkable trait of the species. And I'm a trait interested person doing his building. I need to know what the traits are. So I'm saying I am interested in the traits that we don't know the species has, that are common or uncommon. That's project that I'm interested in, because there's no new ground to be broken on. You can unalive yourself. No, and I don't think it's inappropriate, because frankly, I don't like the fact that people can say the things that they say that are extremely abusive, but we can't talk about something as important as that, because why? I don't think that works out. In my opinion, you know, but I do understand some people, it's I have to be cautious because they're going to have a negative thought spiral. But again, in my opinion, that negative thought spiral can be interrupted by the fact that, like, that is not news. That is not new. That is not new. That is still not new. How many interesting things can your brain be aware of that are human behavior? Right. I'm interested in why humans are weird. Exactly. Go. We don't know. We don't know that. If you want to ask why humans tend to do ideation of this type or another or whatever, there we have room to grow. And now you're outside of this one thought that, like, I have this one trait. I can take myself out before you take me out. I can take myself out before you take me out. I can take... Okay. All right. And I have fingernails. Cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we both have fingernails. Yep. We're humans. Oh boy. Oh boy, howdy. We sure both are humans. Yes, you got LFB's 7.5 lessons about the brain. Her beach read, as she calls it. Yes, I enjoyed it tremendously. Kyle got that for me. I thought it was so sweet and made me so happy. And I'm like, well, this is a great guy. This guy's great. Hi, LFB, the great LFB. We are LFB super fans here. Highly recommend. Yes, Kyle's letting people know about how emotions are made in a different Discord, and getting people to know that it's not self-help. It's a whole other, it's a whole opening of your ability to understand and model human brains that you needed and been needing and will be needing. So, what was that? Continue to need. Yep. I said that part. Will be. Yeah, once a year, return to it. I agree with that. I agree. Like, I want to reread it now. Your dad bought it for your birthday? That's fire. Yay, your dad. That's nice. I'm, like, really into that, knowing that, and I'm happy about it. Okay. All right, let's see. And then Plagued said, also, thanks for going down this, I don't know, rabbit hole? No, tangent, whatever. Thanks for opening this treasure chest. Ooh, that's good. Instead of going down a road or going around, thanks for opening this treasure chest so that we can pick through it. Yes, I mean, it's funny when they say the stress epidemic or something. I'm like, have you ever watched a mouse? They're way stressed for good reason. I tell myself, I do not need to be a mousehole, but I still need to appease my mouse stress part of my brain. I don't know if I'm goofing now. Not like, okay, so let me talk about that. So this, have you read How Emotions Are Made? Have you read it? You should read it. You can also read 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. It's like the shorter, cozy read version of it, but both of them would be required read in my opinion. Like, I would read both. I don't care which order. But, okay. So, you should. Yes. I think it will be fascinating to hear how your brain digests it and synthesizes it. It would be. I would be very excited to hear that. Okay, so the stress in your brain. Your stress.
Kyle's echoing again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the stress in your brain. The stress that you feel. Your body is needing responsiveness from the thing you call you. So the thing that you have thought of as yourself, right? That identity that you've formed. Why it even gets to exist is your body needs stuff from it all the time. What's not helpful is when society tells you that it needs shit it doesn't need and tries to brainwash you, telling you all the time. And then you feel worse and worse and worse because that isn't what your body needs. It's just what people have told you, hurting your ability to do reality testing on your physiological, actual body needs and the environment that you're in, which is completely dynamically interconnected and dependent, right? So if you're dependent on being in the right environment to meet your needs, and the environment is telling you you have different needs than you even have all the time, and just trying to hypnotize, like just repeating it so many times to make it true, which is something that the Führer, as we have him, says, is that he repeats things until people believe it, basically, right? So that's the environment that you're in. Then the stress that you're feeling is just your body trying to be like, hey. So I allowed the conditions for you to get to exist, self. Can you please like do your job, please? Like you're the only one that can do this job. Can you please, for the love of God, learn to do your job, and then you get to enjoy all these other things of selfhood, right? So that's my not fully baked version of this yet, because I still need to, I think I need Dr. Hassan's work more, and keep looking at Bandy Lee, but Hassan is the one that I'm like, I need to synthesize this now too. But that's basically what it is, and then you can let go of so much shit.
I don't know if like playing video games flow states are the same as like sports and music and stuff flow states, but the way you explain like what the self is, it seems like you lose track of time playing a video game state is just your body not needing any input from the part of you call yourself.
Yes.
For a while.
Correct. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Right, like it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's 5 hours later when I was playing Minecraft. Well, that's because I didn't need to do any introspection or any of this like meta looking at my info about myself stuff for the past 5 hours.
Yeah.
I was just looking at Minecraft, and my body already knows how to Minecraft. So it was just Minecrafting.
Yeah.
I didn't need to, yeah.
And if your body needed something additional, like all of a sudden you started having heart palpitations, it would let you know. Like, it's probably good right then. Yes. Yeah.
Because, like, the main thing from, like, I Am a Strange Loop by Douglas Hofstadter is that the, like, self is this emergent property of the brain modeling itself, right?
Yeah.
That's what he calls a strange loop, is a loop made where it's not just a circle, but, like, it's sort of, like, each wrap up the circle goes up one meta layer. So, like, when you point a camera at the video feed of the camera, it starts to do weird things.
Yes.
Right? When a brain starts to spend most of its time thinking about what it is thinking, like modeling the experiences that it is modeling, it starts to do strange things as well.
I think recursion is interesting because, like, so if you take recursion from coding, right, it's a sign of a really good code and a sign of a really like fucked code. Is like if it starts obeying its own rules in like a way that like it's embedded, the rule scales inwards and outwards and keeps applying. You can create something that like makes a monstrosity hallucination, and you can also make something that agrees with basic physics in a way that like it will last for a really, really, really long time. So if you get the recursion right, it will last longer. If you get it wrong, it will turn into a mutant. It'll Akira out. Like cancer or something, right? Where it's like it yeah, there I don't know enough about coding to go past that, but that's, I think, relevant to all life. Like, I think coding works because we work, and we all work on this principle of, like this process that's self-referential, but also if it changes, it the reference that it uses is also, it knows that it needs to refer itself, but itself changes, right? But it still knows that it needs to refer to itself, but itself changes, and it's like that's where we're at. Okay, just in case it matters. Okay, I'm gonna be right back because I'm gonna move some stuff. Okay, BRB.
Alrighty. Jane is gonna be right back because she is moving some stuff. I have started playing some Minecraft, is what I ended up deciding to do while on this call. It is fun to get back into Minecraft. It is a perennial game, it seems like.
I haven't played Minecraft in months at this point, but I think about playing Minecraft every day.
Boom. Yeah, I don't actually do housekeeping during Housekeep-a-thon because it takes me away from my computer and microphone setup. So this is the body doubling I'm doing right now, is building stuff in Minecraft. I am so excited to play Sea of Thieves with Kyle sometime because he is a really cool dude who is funny and does great role playing and improv and stuff. And I get to spend like no time with him at the moment because we don't have any shared projects. And like that's my current theory of how autistic like relationships sustain themselves. Like you just have to have a shared project that you engage in, or else you don't interact with that person at all, no matter how much they seem cool or you would want to interact with them. We just don't do things in that manner. Right. So like, yeah, Shadow Wolf and I have a sustained relationship because we just always have a video game that we play together. Right. And so we have the what was the term? Project, right? We just have an infinite project of play whatever game we play together. You know, so it's just like anytime I want to interact with Shadow, I'll just like, okay, well, do you want to play one of these games? And boom, instant interaction, right? Compared to like some random other person, it's like, well, what do I say? And even if you come up with something to say, it just, you say it and then it ends. And then that part of the conversation's over. And then everything feels awkward and trails off because that's just not how we seem to be oriented, is right? You want to have a project, is the language I'm coming to it, like a thing that you do with the person. Shadow typed out, me and Lilith don't have the immediate ease of conversation about their special interests. Yeah.
Is my mic working now?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, that's crazy. Let me check something real quick. I got this headset. Okay, I'm going to mute myself via the headset.
Sure.
Okay, testing. I should be unmuted now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Huh. I think I know what might have happened. I was going to add on to something with that was, even though I'm not autistic, and then I have these 3 friends, maybe more than 3, but I have a number of friends. I don't remember how many, but I might not hear from them for, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years at a time. And one day I'll be like, hey, remember that one time? Da 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 da. Oh, I remember that. Remember that one time? Da 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 da. Yep. All right. Well, you doing all right? Yeah, I'm doing all right. All right. Take care. All right. See ya. So even though I'm not autistic, and uh, they aren't either, but then they usually have their friends. But I think even though I'm not autistic, I kind of have a similar thing where I'm just chugging along, doing whatever I'm doing, and I don't necessarily reach out on a consistent basis to anyone. I'm not wasting my time with this shit.
Okay, I'm back. Hello.
welcome back.
Hello.
Thank you. Okay. So, I think this is a good topic. Change slot. Yeah. What now?
Well, I was just thinking about, like, remember we went to the grocery store and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's where my head's been at. Not that I necessarily was like, oh, can I lead a conversation or anything like that. It was more so like, would you want to pick up somewhere where we left off and then share it with the group or something like that? Just kind of more gauging like what you wanted to do with your thing.
I'll go with me.
I'm sorry.
Mm.
Oh, you're eating. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Picking up where the group left off. Like, where did you want to go?
Just that I think it's our age brackets. So I'm gonna say, anywhere from millennial, the entire population of millennial, and the entire population of Gen Z. I think a lot of things need to happen, and they need to happen quick. I think one big thing across the board, every single group of whatever people, especially online, which is the online thing is obviously becoming more and more in the quote real world, where you have people who, have never, they've used the internet for just Instagram. They never used it to like get involved in online discussions or anything like that. There's a lot of people like that across the planet. It's probably most people don't have a Discord, I would think.
Yeah.
I think it's possible maybe even most people like maybe they've never heard it, or if they did hear it, it never registered because it's not like a concept they would remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But clearly the online thing is becoming very real. So for example, post-election, there's obviously a lot of buzz around a lot of different things. I personally haven't 100% verified anything via like Associated Press or like a diligent news thing, but the anecdotes that I've been hearing are that there's a right-wing, whatever you want to call him, Nick Fuentes, who had this little minute clip where he's saying all this crazy stuff. I don't really want to repeat it at this moment. Doing his little Donald Trump impression. And he basically, the premise of his statement was your body, my choice, in reference to women, in reference to Donald Trump winning. So, oh, Nick Fuentes, who cares? He's just like a loser online. Da da da. Well, right now online, you have a lot of men, especially on Twitter, I'll call it, who are, a woman will say something, it might even be like a really well written, really well thought out, really interesting to read, multiple posts that are still concise but dense with good information, very high writing level, and you would require like a decent, not like postdoctorate, but a decent reading comprehension level to follow along with. And their just replies are like, your body, our choice, your body, our choice, your body, our choice. So that's online. That's still affecting real people, by the way. But then, anecdotally, I want to confirm this, but if it's true, or even, so if it's true, obviously alarmed, and then if these are just anecdotes that are improvable, I think the fact that it's one of those things where it's like it doesn't seem that far off, I think that's still room to be concerned, is you have apparently boys are going around schools.
You do. They were doing this in Andrew Tate. You do. Yes.
So you have boys going around in schools in the real world telling girls, your body, my choice, right? Yeah, your body, my choice. So this thing it's always been real, but it's real. And so I think one big thing, which is a small thing, is why I bring it up first, is our generations need to clean it up. I think the like, oh, I'm just edgy. Hey, I'm just edgy. Like, I say bad stuff. Like, I make fun of people. Like, we all say the R word again. Da 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 da. Of course, I respect like the lefties. Of course, I respect women and stuff like that. Da, 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 da. But it's like, I don't know. They just never really prove it to me. And obviously the right wingers are like, well, of course we respect women. Of course we love women. We just think that it's healthier for them to be stuck inside barefoot and pregnant.
Because
Blah,
they're
blah, 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 blah.
intellectually and morally inferior, and every person that behaves assuming that girls and women are intellectually and morally inferior tell on themselves.
100%.
So I have like a thing that's, I guess, kind of like an anecdote that like finally is the right time to tell it, which is that Lauren Southern like went on to become a trad wife, and she has spoken out about how abusive it was.
Yep.
And if you're the kind of person who actually like engages in discussion with people who say things like barefoot and pregnant is how women should be and stuff, that's probably a good example to look into and use as a talking point, because she was a big member of this online like extreme rights-based stuff, and has spoken out about how completely horrific actually living that out was for her.
Because she was in a cult ran by one man. Okay? So women are being told it's okay to recruit any and all of us for a cult, and society will collude with it. But if we were taken into Heaven's Gate, society would have an issue with it?
Right.
Yeah, I remember when, I don't think I read it immediately as soon as she posted it, but I stumbled across it pretty recently after the fact. I don't even remember when I read it. I don't remember when it happened, but I remember reading that and then being like, okay, well, let's check in on some of the responses from her, previous or current or whatever cohort. And the comments were pretty crazy, basically like, well, that's what you get for being with, for betraying your race. That's what you get for being with, insert stereotype or insert slur against black people here, because apparently he's part or something black or something. I don't know. I kind of tuned out at that point, so I was like, well, okay. Obviously,
our cult leaders would never cult that way. Our cult leaders would cult correctly.
Once you're framing it as a cult, like, that the specifics don't matter, because anytime there's a criticism of the cult, they will find specifics to say this case is different for X, Y, or Z reason, and our cult wouldn't do that. And
they're all pitching themselves as the cult leader of one specific human being that has been earmarked by society that it's okay to recruit, and then any children that they've without informed consent get this woman to have, because she doesn't know what she's consenting to. She doesn't know she's in a cult.
Right.
And then you wonder why the kids get mad. I'm just saying.
What do you mean?
Why kids that grow up in that dynamic get mad and are scarred and are running around the internet doing all kinds of stuff, maybe even starting cults of their own making, not necessarily right wing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like a lot of left.
Yeah.
The left is children of a one-man cult who got out of the cult but don't know they were in a cult. Okay?
When you say one-man cult, are you referring to the father?
Yes. The patriarch.
Patriarch.
Okay, just clarifying.
Yeah. No, that's good to clarify, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Because like another easy read would be thinking you're talking about Trump, I think.
Yeah.
Or
cult.
or God, Jesus.
Sure. Yeah.
The concept does kind of apply to the Father and to the Trump and to the Son and to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Right.
Make America great again. You know what I mean? Like it continues to go, and
the
almost
patriarchy is cults the whole way down, right?
That's what I'm saying about recursion, though. It needs to recurse in order for it to be successful in the human mind, is my opinion. And that's the kind of recursion that is it's recursing.
Yeah, it's also it's got aspects of fractal patterns,
Correct.
right?
Yes, fractal. Yes, correct.
Yep. Where it's a continual shape that is the shape that's the next shape of itself of the next shape that's itself. Da 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 da.
Yep.
Blah 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 blah. So I know I have a tendency to kind of jump to a lot of things at once. That's probably my Mercury and the sign of Sagittarius, which is why I have a good sense of humor. Quickly, I think our generations need to clean up the act. This whole it's okay to say, the R word now anyone can say it. Lefties can say it. They're saying it all the time. Men, by the way. The fact that despite all of the moaning and whining and pissing and crying about we're not the misogynists, you're the misogynist. We're not the misogynists. Discussions are still fundamentally controlled by men. You can point to me 1, 2, 4, 5, give me 10 women if you want that are present in quote unquote media. But if you look at the numbers in comparison to the men, if you look at the fan base compared to the men, and if you look at how it seems like every woman who's involved in alternative media, not because women are inferior, but every woman that's involved in alternative media has to be tethered to a man.
Yep.
I can't think of a single woman that has completely, uniquely, on her own, been able to acquire a platform large enough to reach a decent amount of people to at least create some kind of buzz around whatever topics she may be discussing, right?
Right.
So the
Oh.
right...
Can I just say something on that note? So in empirical world, that's why Lisa Feldman Barrett is in the 99.99th percentile of citations, because her work is impeccable. Okay?
Yeah.
And none of these people know who she is.
They wouldn't, yeah, exactly. And I don't believe they would care to know.
No, because she's intellectually and morally more developed than they are. That is pro-socially, and in terms of not only curiosity, but being able to make the curiosity actually develop into what we call intellect.
Yeah. So the right-wing thing, I think, is pretty easy to set down, because the concept of the woman being the inferior is baked in, out in the open, on the surface. It's easy to see. We get it, right? One of my major issues, one of many major issues I have with people who say that they're left-wing or socialists or communists or whatever you want to call it, is they're still upholding a misogynistic structure, a structure of misogyny, if you will, and their interactions with women. At this point, I don't really know even how to categorize it without being too broad, but it's just strange to me to see where it's, I don't know, it's this weird dog and pony show. I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase called a dog and pony show. We say it at work when we hook up all the speakers and all the TVs and stuff, and we don't have the system 100% ready yet, but it looks like it's done, and we can get some sound in the speakers and some stuff on the image, and the customer wants to come in and look at it, so we call it a dog and pony show, because it's like, yeah, look, you're rich, and look at your cool thing that we're not quite done yet, but it looks like it's done, and they're like, wow, these speakers are really nice. Dog and pony show. To me, it's always given that vibe, and so I'm concerned that because women still do not have an equal place at the table, and because the women that they do seem to trot out, there's always, especially on the left, there's always this thing about like, oh, she's our friend and she's a girl, but you know, we're not weird to her, but just listen to her for relationship advice. Why does she have to take care of you immediately as soon as she's in the room?
She can sit at the table, she tucks in their little nappy, and she, tucks in their little bib, and make sure that they have enough little macaroni noodles in their little dish, and give them a little kiss on the head.
And also, I've seen a couple people say, in our age brackets, say that they're feminists, right? But my problem is that I don't know if I've ever heard a single person quote somebody other than Simone de Beauvoir.
They ain't read shit. They don't even know how difficult it is to read feminism, because it's not republished. You have to find out-of-print books.
And I certainly don't hear them mention the plethora of modern day, I guess maybe other than Butler, but I don't know if she even necessarily counts anymore. But it was supposed to be by they now. Because the subject matter has kind of changed for her, and the era in which she was writing in, and some of the writings that she developed from that time are a little bit strange, in my opinion, to read, where it's kind of like, what's up with all this, like, BDSM shit? Like, where are we getting to the unification of the human species and the proof that women are not inferior to men, and where are we getting to the analysis? So,
No,
and
have an
I
opinion
only
on
mention her because that's a modern. Do you want to share it? I
Yeah.
don't think I'll
So
forget where I'm at.
one of the reasons that happened is she's coming out of the French philosophers who are trying to appeal to like an American audience and other like English philosophers who are already in the academic system, which is where you learn this set of behaviors that they don't even notice about themselves. But most of the French philosophers who are coming out of post-structuralism, postmodernism, Derrida gets to be kind of an exception, but also he learns a lot of his stuff from indigenous people. That's like a valid thing to start talking about. But anyways, so French philosophers, right, they wanted to protect gay men. And so a lot of it is they were trying to make sure that gay men could not be pathologized or legally attacked or criminalized, pathologized and criminalized. So then they like opened up this weird discourse to try to like, I think they're trying to make a bubble of like protection and then their colleagues and stuff. So there's something funky going on there where that was their strategy, which makes sense at the time, I'm sure, in a sense, but also like there's so much misogyny that it's like nobody's going to think about like how that tactic plays out across all of these other dynamics that are in the Western world and in America and stuff like that. Like, so anything that misogyny can use, they will use. Anything that abusive people will use, they will use. Misogynists are abusive because abusers are attracted to misogyny because it gives them what they want. So part of that, part of that is like that dynamic is in there too. And like, I don't have a very thick analysis of it, but that's a pretty milk toast interpretation of the historical context that I think stands up to scrutiny, and then you can go deeper into it without being dismissive, right? I'm trying to give enough there that you can understand why that happened.
And here's what I'll say about it. Okay, even if Judith Butler was 100% correct on every single thing that they said, right? Other than Judith Butler, and other than Simone de Beauvoir, and sometimes bell hooks, but like a sentence, I haven't seen any rigorous proof or resource or how did you come to this determination, because it seems for the left the only things that they seem to care about in terms of women, honestly the only thing I hear them mostly talk about, like they'll talk about abortion and stuff like that, which is fine, but it's men describing their opinion on why abortion should be fine, and the reasons that they give is like, imagine if someone broke into your car, you have the right to remove them, and it's like, that's a car though. I don't think I've ever heard. I don't think that quite pans out. So why is the argument? Why is it men telling other men why they should do it? Whatever. Abortion and like, oh, and the right wingers want trad wives. Like that's like an easy slam dunk. Like if you can't get the trad wife thing like commented on, like why is that like the only thing you have to say? It's like the bare minimum. It's like bottom of the barrel. So I'm just surprised where online has been, but it seems like it's even increasing in some measures, to just continue to just become overpopulated, oversaturated with men leading every single discussion. And the left-wing men seem to have no concerted effort to bring the real issues to the table and to help platform, send people over, whatever, to any one of the number really, really well read, really well written, etc. women from the ages of freaking 20 to fucking 50. There's no concerted effort on it, and yet they want to own the position that they're the ones who are not misogynists, and then the right wings, they want to own the position that they just know.
Okay, I thought
I've heard it pronounced many times.
I thought it was Beauvoir.
I'm not gonna pretend like I know that word.
Hold on, let me just look, because I've heard feminist theorists talk about it, and now I'm like, did I? There's a lot of people that I pronounce their name wrong, so I just want to double check.
names.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's
I was
had
gonna
it.
Simone de Beauvoir.
It
like,
is
this
Simone
is
de
a-
Beauvoir. I allowed for that because I was like I'm pretty sure I've heard multiple people say this. Yeah, it's de Beauvoir.
What is it?
Simone de Beauvoir. Wait.
French, yeah.
Simone de Beauvoir.
So I think
Simone
this is a
de
situation
Beauvoir.
where we can apply what we learned from like the racism discussion of like, you can't just say you're not racist, you can't just say you're not misogynist, right? Like you have to be actively doing anti-misogynism, you have to be actively doing anti-racism, and if you're not, like that's okay if you don't have the capacity for that if you're aware about it, but don't say you're a feminist unless you're doing anti-misogyny. Don't say that you're fighting against racism unless you are actively practicing anti-racism, right?
Well, and the beauty of, so why I would encourage people to say feminism specifically is then you have to ask, well, why did they call it that? And the answer is feminism is saying that femininity and masculinity is one system that is oppressing and limiting the entire species, and the weakest point is femininity. So the ideology of femininity makes the least sense because masculinity describes at least a hypothetical human being, not that they become one, a developed human being who's self-actualized. It's possible to describe a self-actualized human being with the qualities of masculinity. It is not with the qualities of femininity, and this split doesn't even exist. So it's an ideology that's broken and bullshit, and it's called feminism because it's intelligent to look at that, and it's also intelligent to reinforce that we're going to center women and females and girls and all that. We're going to center that. The people that they said are insignificant and are accessories, we're going to make them the subject that gives us insights and that we see from the perspective of. So the whole idea is that you cannot see from the perspective of a woman. You can only see from a perspective of a man because he is the subject and the woman is the object. So the entire thing is a challenge to patriarchy. To even say feminism is a challenge to patriarchy because you've centered the female person and their experience as a subjective individual.
And exactly, and I think what ends up happening, and if we read even probably beyond the 60s, but there's a lot of writing even from the 60s about how feminists, when they began to get their steam and their traction and to begin to advocate for rights for women, protections for women, especially protections for women, not allowing men to own them, hit them, beat them, control the money, control the kids, control the house,
Yep.
that all of a sudden left-wing men were like, yeah, we support you, sister, and those men ended up becoming just as predatory as the men in society, almost as if there's a normal men in society. And so what happens with feminism online, and it seems like in day-to-day stuff, the man will consistently center either himself relative to feminism or men in general relative to feminism, and both. And oftentimes as well, I've noticed that not every, but a lot of women as well, when they begin to discuss feminism, it seems like they have to do this long explanatory thing about how it shouldn't be scary to men because men. Not that she's like this, like, oh, she loves men so much or whatever. That's not my claim. I'm saying that the end result ends up being an entire bunch of time wasted about how men should view it, what men should feel about it, and how it could help men, and men this and men that, which I fail to see how that's not a simple repetition of what occurred 60 years ago.
Switch headsets. Am I audible still?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So yes. Also, I want to pop into the chat. So like, how do you deal with that as an AFAB MB? I feel like our situation is unique. AFAB MBs. Let's talk about this. So this system is built on a specific belief in a biological theory of inferiority that took the place of a religious notion of that. It's supposed to be an embodied inferiority. So everybody female is supposed to be morally and intellectually inferior to everybody male. So it doesn't care about that. Now, how it punishes you based on what you're saying about anything else about you, all of that is supposed to be gone. And this is what we're losing in this current era, that as if this system gives a toss about if we called ourselves anything, NB fucking mushrooms. It doesn't care what we call ourselves. That's why it does the attack helicopter shit, because they're saying no, but you're still intellectually male. And the people in this cult, which is pretty much everyone on earth, they think a trans woman is still morally and intellectually superior because they are male versus females. This is the substrate of this.
So how it plays out from there, when you say anything, when you say boo about this whatsoever, in any way whatsoever, you will then deal with consequences that I think get more specific and nuanced, and then you get into something that's like good intersectional feminism can talk about that. But the advantage is that we say we know what it is. It's based only on that. It's not based on some like game of Twister of like identities and stuff. Doesn't care about that. And in fact, if people believe that it cares about that, and then you notice that you still have male people speaking over female people in terms of morality and comprehension, it's shit. It's, you see what I'm saying? So how you exist in this is a series of interlaced let me think, what's the way to put this? I mean, it's all very dynamic, so I want to add that. The system that we're talking about isn't dynamic. It just has two things. It has alive, dead, good, bad, yes, no. Okay? So men have to be, yes, alive, good, smart, strong, all that. And what they're anchoring it to, how do they even do that? It's the observable changes mostly at puberty, like maybe a couple other wiggle things that they try to point to, but the main thing is the difference at puberty in strength, because in my model, in my theory, it's actually based on doing as arriving. So they're saying if I go through male puberty and you go through female puberty, right, as far as we know that in our species, I can outrun you short distance to a goal, and if you get there anyway, I can kill you. It's based on arriving as a sign of significance, of superiority, because they're going to say, and now that I've arrived here, you have to say I'm intellectually, morally superior, even though that's not a smart thing to do, because smart is building and understand what's really there, right? So no self-awareness. We all joke about the no self-awareness and the red pill for what, like now 15 years or something? Okay, so it produces that, produces incompetency, produces the Emperor with no clothes, produces the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. But also, treating anybody like that is not pro-social. And the problem we have of unfit leadership in my model, in my theory, is coming from that. So the unfit leader cannot be pro-social, cannot be intellectually curious or able to develop any capacities, and is in a position to tell people how to organize themselves as a society, which is a helpful position to have, but extremely dangerous unless the person is intellectually, morally grounded, developed, well developed. So this produces males that are not well developed. And that's not some like male, like shitting on males or something like that. It's supposed to kneecap all of us, right? That's why the first feminist movement was going for education. Even above it was education, suffrage, okay? But education was numero uno, most important thing ever, because we needed to prove that we were not morally and intellectually inferior, because they were actually physically trying to handicap us, our developmentally, right? So this is where it gets really interesting. So that's the analysis, right? And then when you see it that way, you can say, oh, okay, that's why this is so hard for us to escape, because it's so simplistic that these male body people can just point to male puberty as evidence of their superiority, that then they will use the threat of violence, which they have an increased capability to do, just based on just bone length, muscle. That's it. That simple. And then they said that makes me morally and intellectually superior, and if you say I'm not, I'll kill you. And that gets into my theory of patridennialation and denialation, where I think that's denialation is what people might call a tantrum. When you say no to somebody, one of those people that has bought into this indoctrinated way of seeing themselves as superior, when you say no to them, and denialation can be a broad category that comes out of this dualistic way of thinking, but in our culture as a species, we have patridennialation specifically. These are people that cannot regulate themselves, because that would be a skill that you learn pro-socially and intellectually, and they are not, as I said, actually able to do those things. They're just beating people up and making threats to pretend so, and having other people make threats on their behalf to get to the finish line, where you get to be the authority that has the badge and the trophy. So this person...
Hey.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. I thought you were pausing.
Oh well, I just wanted to finish this. So, shit. Hold on. Wait a second. Wait a second. Give me a second. I need to, you hold your thought too, please. Oh, denilation, patronization. When you say no to them, you're saying what you are asking me to do is actually not ethically valid. It's not ethically sound or rational. So you've just questioned their ability to be intellectually and morally an authority over you, and that's why they're losing their minds. Is they also can't do basic self-regulation over being told you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, bro. Which is why they don't want a lot of people around them. Okay, I'm done.
I was gonna say too that oftentimes, especially online, which is like at least the way we use it, it's predominantly used by English speakers and people who can speak English. With that, the conversations generally skew towards things that are relevant to America, England, then maybe parts of Europe, then maybe some parts of the Middle East, and then kind of further away from our linguistic and regional location, the reality of what a lot of women and girls are going through across the planet is forgotten, buried, gone. Can't find it unless you look super hard. We still have to contend with, I forgot which country it was in Africa, but there was thousands and thousands of women. Get ready for this one. But this is a real life adult conversation, so hopefully this doesn't bother anyone too much, but it's important to hear because we need to know what's going on in this world if we think that we're the ones who can figure out how to fix it. So that means you have to be willing to, in my opinion, you have to be willing to engage with things when they're difficult. Maybe not all the time, but at least sometimes. So, can't remember which country was in Africa, but thousands of women committed suicide. Right, guys, can you say that on Twitch? I think that's stupid if you can't. They ended their own lives because they were being assaulted in the most particular way. How many of us know about that? I'm not talking about 10. I'm not talking about 100. I'm not talking about 999. Apparently, the number is thousands. Oh, well, inferior culture. Oh, well, and then in parts, and then also in parts of the world, you have FGM, which is the mutilation of their private parts. I don't know what words you can say on Twitch anymore, but why is that on the docket? Why is that not? Why are we not seeing people clamber at the door? Hurry up, figure this one out. The 4P movement is very interesting in South Korea. This group of women have basically said we're not interacting with men whatsoever in any regard. In any regard. Why would they do that? Ask yourself, what would make a group of women say, you know what? We're not interacting with any of you. And if you look into it, there's a lot of problems and strife that got going over there regarding these things. So we're English speakers. We think relative to our own location, well, what am I supposed to do with all this? What am I supposed to do with all this? Think about yourself. You have to, but never forget to think about other people and to just go look. You have a globe. You can look up the map, pick a random country, look up how are women treated in this country, and be shocked at what you see. Have your mind blown. And then we have to sit here and pretend like the most what do you want? Fluent, erudite, esoteric, impactful, culturally relevant discussions are happening on Twitch.tv and YouTube.com between this guy who likes to say the N-word in private and this guy who likes to say the R-word right in front of you. I'm going to tell you guys how to think about feminism. Da, 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 da. Okay. Out of the whole world, out of the whole planet, this is what we select to give money to. These guys get paid to sit here and do this every day, a lot of money every day. Turn on their computer and say that every day. Why? They ask yourself why.
Right. Okay. So this was something I was going to bring up earlier, because Jane was talking about the one-man cults. And so when people are online calling themselves part of the left and being leftist content creators, they are setting themselves up as the leader of their own version of a cult because they act in the way that they are the sole arbiter of what is correct, right? That is the framing for anyone, well, for almost anyone, right, with tiny amounts of exceptions, talking about politics. They're like, I'm going to talk about politics and I'm going to tell you what's right. And that's the big warning sign right there.
Okay, I was just texting. I'm gonna talk to a boss about something. Can you? Shit, I missed that last part. Damn it. Can you repeat what you said just now a little bit?
I was just saying, like, so one, like I really dislike the term the left because it acts as if there's this big group that exists that is in any way a real group. Because like, and again, like Kyle was saying, we exist in this English speaking part of the internet, and we very much exist in this American centric part of the internet. So when we talk about politics, we're almost always talking about American politics, which makes sense to some degree because, aside from China, which they have all their own internet stuff going on, but like America is the vast amount of world shaping power on this planet, right? And China's only a small amount compared to them too, right? Like everyone should be talking about American policy insofar as they talk about politics at all, right? But the right in America is a real group because it is funded by billionaires to be a real group that spreads like ideology intentionally and stays on point, right? They stick together and work together and exist as a large group. And there's nothing on the left like that except the Democrats, and the Democrats do not have internet presence. So if you're talking about like being on the left on the internet, that's just, it's weird and not accurate to reality. But what I was saying before that you missed, Jane, is that all of these individual male streamers that talk about being part of the left are just setting up their version of the one-man cult.
Yes, exactly.
They're saying, I am the person who knows the word of God, aka what is right, what is moral, and come to me with any question on any topic, and I'll tell you my thoughts, aka the most important thing in the world. Right? And of course, there's going to be a tiny amount of exceptions out there where people actually talk about how they don't know things and reference you to other people to learn from, and actually reference books and other sources of information they talk from. But that's a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of people. Yeah.
And I don't know if I was clear when I referenced it. I usually try to say the so-called left. I used to try to say like self-described, but it sounds a little bit, I don't know, like difficult to say.
The whole situation is hard because it is the terms used so by everybody to call it the left.
But and I would say that I'm very comfortable saying the right as a structured unit because clearly they have structure. They're much more organized. Their funding structure is a lot different. I think it's important to notice too. It's like they have no disagreement with one another whatsoever on anything, up to a point. If there's a Nazi saying he's right wing, they don't openly disagree with him. The most they'll be like is like, oh, obviously I'm not racist. Anyways, back to making fun of this girl with blue hair. So that's the bait and switch. You know what I mean? That's not even a bait and switch. I don't even know what it is.
Well, when you say if there's a Nazi saying he's right wing, like they spread misinformation about whether or not Nazis are right wing, for one thing, right? They will actively defend people being called alt-right or fascist or any word that's not even Nazi, but is, linked with those same kind of behaviors. They will say, oh, this person isn't really that, and so on and so on and so on. Like they do huge amounts of defense for that
So
as well, right?
I think, and part of kind of where I was, my main stemming point was like, we got to clean it up. We got to like figure it out real quick on what we're supporting and how we want to talk about things in an adult way instead of this edgy teenage boy. Like, we're gonna add in some laughs. We're gonna say a couple slurs, and we're all cool, guys, right? One of the things is I'm not gonna monitor what anyone else says in general, right? Me personally, I've been thinking about this. I don't personally see the utility in labeling anything Nazi, anything fascist anymore, just as a strict label. I think being able to describe what those concepts are is very important, though, however, and being able to investigate what those words mean and what it's required to be, like what something has to have in order to be considered those things. But what I will say is this: the power of naming, the power of making the words line up all the bullshit things that they've been pulling lately. I know a lot of people have been calling it MAGA. At this point, just call it American right-wing politic, and every single bullshit thing that they've done is going to line up with it, and then you're good to go. You don't have to have endless debates on whether or not it's fascism, whether or not it's Nazism, whether or not they're more like Stalin or Mao Zedong, or if we are or if they are. Just call it what they are calling themselves, and then describe the behaviors themselves. And then when they try to get out of those behaviors, you can hold them to the facts, you can show them the receipts, and then we don't have to get lost in these endless definition wars. Because for some people, definitions are great. I think for the vast majority of people, it's a really good cop-out, tune-out time, and I think that's why it's ineffective. And I think as part of cleaning up this act, fine, you don't want to be called fascist? Fine. You want to be called Nazi? Guess what? I'm going to respect your pronouns, dude. Instead, I'm just going to call you what you are. You're right-wing then, I guess. You want to, like some of your friends want to repeal the 19th Amendment so women can't vote. Some of you want to make sure that women don't have bodily autonomy in all 50 states, and that she has to consider which state she'll have more or less freedom to choose in. Whatever other things you want, like, or certain states are going to be able to outlaw gay marriage or not. It's like, well, just don't live there. It's like, okay, what about all the people who are born there and it's hard to move states? Oh, just try harder. Da, 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 da. So on and on and on. I think we want to get this thing to not having people having to, healthcare. It's like, it's something crazy. Like so many people think Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act are two different things. And when they voted, they were like, I don't want Obamacare. I just want the ACA. And it's like, you don't want Obamacare? You want the ACA? Yeah, Obamacare is stupid. I just want the ACA. And it's like, they're the same thing. No, they're not. One's Obamacare. Why would they have two different names? Oh my God, go look it up and how it got the name. Oh shit, I just voted again. I can't afford health insurance. Yeah, dude. The hell?
Well, and like so many people that voted for Trump because they want to get illegal aliens out have no idea that, illegal immigrants pay into the tax base for social welfare without drawing out of it. So they're actually adding money to your social programs that you get as a citizen. They are not draining, right? And that's just like a super basic fact that will completely stump a lot of these people when they realize it. They're just like, oh, I was completely wrong about reality on this.
If you're ever curious,
right? But yeah.
If you're ever curious, look on what is that Google search thing where you can see how often a term has been searched up or whatever. Look up tariffs before and after the election.
Right.
Why are we looking after? What the hell is going on here?
Right, but that's, that gets into the whole thing, which I don't know if we want to keep going into talking about.
No.
Yeah.
So let me, and I don't want to, so this whole thing is, I'm going to circle back. These are all examples that could go on and should go on, not necessarily in this conversation, but just think about how complex these things are. And the fact that we're not able to have these discussions is a big reason why, is because those who are quote unquote in charge of leading the conversations are men who have never assiduously sat down and asked themselves, why am I in this position of influence, control, leadership, domination, whatever word you need to install for them to look at what they're doing and ask themselves, what makes me capable to fulfill the duties of this role in order to better society. And one of the big reasons, possibly the biggest reason why any given man would never ask himself that question is because it's a given. And why is it a given? Because men are naturally and essentially destined and always capable of performing that function in society, of being the one who says what it is
Mm-hmm.
and deciding on your behalf for you, whether or not you like it.
And then what? Yeah, I'm gonna be the protector of women, whether they like it or not. So like this is coming up in the chat too a little bit. So Plague was saying that they would describe themselves as like a specific type of pacifist anarchist, and I want to note that they get antagonized for that. And I said also violence is patriarchal full stop. So the people being like, we're going to patriarchy ourselves out of patriarchy, sure, okay, because that's what they really want. They still want to be able to do things because if not violence.
Right. And you can't get out of if not violence through violence.
Correct.
Right.
Which is why doomerism doesn't work. Nihilism doesn't work, because that's just saying, well, I'm just gonna watch the violence happen and violently laugh at it.
I don't know of any ism that hasn't been worked on by countless people over the course of decades and centuries, across multiple socioeconomic brackets. I don't know of any ism in regards to how to look at the world is ever going to be accurate enough to actually look at the world and then make decisions based from that framework. Other than, Jane has said this many times, and I've always thought, because I don't just immediately agree with something, right? I'm just going to immediately disagree with something. But she said, if we don't use feminism, then we'll never going to be okay. And it's like, that's, to me, that sounds like a big claim, right? It's like, oh, this is, if this thing is not here, it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary. If it's not there, you won't get it. You won't get to the peace. You won't get to, I don't know, just not feeling like crap all the time. It's like,
Yep.
I'm pretty sure most people, a lot of people feel like crap all the time.
Yeah.
And then they either suffocate it through TVs or suffocate it through drugs or food or games or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, when they go to sleep, they're stressed out and they don't know what they're doing tomorrow. That's probably not good. So you want to get out of that. Well, you can't get out of it until you address the why that's happening. And then you can't address the why that's happening unless you use that very specific framework called feminism. And so I thought about it and I was like, big claim. But you know what? I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly happy to say I agree. I don't see any problem with that. And not this vague, ethereal concept of like, what is a woman? She's a sound in the willow tree. What is a woman? She's a blade of grass just before the dewdrop hits on a summer night. Oh, shut up. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, dude. You know?
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very serious. And if you can't take women,
Very serious.
if you can't take female people seriously as a starting point, that's because you're still a misogynist. Huh? You know, no, actually, I think that, like, that thing over there is a nebulous nothing that gives me a good feeling of being on drugs. I'm like, no, this is material reality we're talking about still. Where did that go? Why did that stop? Oh, because if you actually do this, you have to recognize that female are made of matter and not your vague magical thinking, or potentially, if somebody's really gone down the supremacy rabbit hole of it, that men are the mystical magical essence and female are just like dirt.
Right. I would like to see like a list that shows, is the right word parity? I don't know. I always go back and forth on that damn word. But that would show like comparable rates. Also, you have a call at 3:30?
I do.
What time is it now?
3:15.
Okay. I was gonna say I would like to see like a really nice, easy to navigate, look at, blah 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 graph of like different countries and their levels of whatever you want to say, like equality or parity between men and women on a number of different metrics. I don't know, financial or law, legal protections, or you know, whatever a person could research, I guess, regarding humans, I would like to see the differences.
Emergent things too, because now we have the so the nice thing about AI is you can do data sets that are learning. So maybe the categories you came up with are actually not sensible categories to apply to material reality.
Yeah.
So that too, right?
100%. 100%. I would love new things. I would love new things.
Mm-hmm.
A completely different way of looking at things and understanding it. I remember I would like to see what Jermaine Greer was referencing, but she mentioned like I'm not gonna do an Australian accent, make fun of Australians right now. I do that later by myself. She was saying, and I take her at her word. She was saying that they've shown that even people, when they're feeding babies, the mother will feed the boys more on average than the girls.
Yeah, that's been documented. Yes, I don't know where it's at today, but yes.
It was at a time and a place. So I shouldn't say do. I should say at the time and in the place. And I'm like, so I'd like to see the controls. Like, okay, do boys cry more or something? Like, what's going on? But apparently, like they controlled for that. So I'd like to see it. But things like that are good questions. Whether or not the hypothesis is true, like our hypothesis is that people will feed baby boys more than they'll feed baby girls. Whether the hypothesis is true or not, the question I think is a good question to ask because it gets you thinking about what are all these other little things. What about toys? Okay, you get Legos and you get a doll. Neither one of those are maybe inherently bad, but you could have both. You could have overlap, and then, you know what I mean? You're developing different types of skills, 3D modeling in one's head, understanding how pieces fit together to build something. Not that dolls can't accomplish something either, but it doesn't really lend itself towards that. Could that be some explanation as to the not very big divide, but the whole like, oh, men are better at 3D recognition, man. Like we can visualize stuff better. We don't know if that's true. So we got to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but you can't ask that question. And you can't ask that question until we clean this thing up, because right now, the majority of discussions online that are going online right now are it's just like little snipey, like little memeing on each other, like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, where is the concerted effort to make sense of what is really going on in a physical way?
This is why it happens. So I told you that it's like a race to the bottom for incompetence, right? So now the males that you have coming out of the system are super ultra incompetent in and brainwashing themselves and da, da, da. So then what ends up happening is we all have to speak with the language of the abuser to camouflage the fact that he's abusive and he ain't shit. He's not impressive. So then we all have to think in unimpressive ways.
Those are the only things that are important. What he brings to the table.
Exactly.
And what he is able to contribute in a conversation, which is, I don't know.
Now, diddly squat nada.
At least and especially in terms of, how do we get to a point where we're no longer just arguing about, do we blow up these people or do we blow up these people?
You can already hear them doing it. So as soon, not even when the results were finalized, you had everybody going, oh, what did we do wrong? Oh man, we just weren't listening to how much pain men were in. Maybe we have to just take care of men more. Oh no. So all of this, basically, we're being told that as soon as we take care of these men more, they'll suddenly be intelligent and moral. Suddenly, they'll be
right.
Okay, so. Mm-hmm.
No kudos to the voting blocks that we would say if we were considering ourselves those who didn't want Trump to win, that like if you look at the percentages, like in America at least, in the swing states at least, black women showed up with like less than 10% went red or something like that, like some crazy number. And it's like, okay, you want the Trump thing to never happen again. What were the reasons for those people voting that way, right? And then you can ask yourself, like, what were the reasons why the young Gen Z guys broke for Trump, and what were the reasons why a lot of millennial men broke for Trump? And that one is kind of clear dry on its surface. They basically just want to be able to harass women freely. That's all they understand.
Yes.
Legitimately.
Mm-hmm.
They think they understand more than that, but that's the actual only concrete thing that they know how to do.
Correct.
Think about that.
Threaten women.
That's the only actual concrete thing they know how to do regarding any of the things that Trump was platforming himself on, outside of what was written down on paper. Like, well, he never had a policy of harassing women. Look how he behaves. Look at his whole life. What are you talking about? Look at the people he surrounds himself with. Look what he allows.
His
Also, side
level
note,
of threatening and harassing women is so high that you can diagnose this person as a malicious, malignant, pathological person just off that alone.
yeah, I suppose when you have countless psychologists ringing their alarm since 2015, I guess you should probably start listening at least a little bit.
Right.
You don't even have to agree right away. That's the funny thing. You don't even have to agree right away.
Yeah.
But there also is this thing of, which is, I think, developed by, well, I'm not the first person to say this, but I agree that it's developed by patriarchal standards, is that la 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 la, I already know, I don't need to learn. And you can't teach me anything because I already know. I already made my mind up. My mind is already made. I'm not weak. I can't be changed. You can't change my mind. I already know what I'm talking about. So I don't need new information. Because what you're saying is a lie. I already know.
Because they're innately morally and intellectually superior. They never have to develop themselves, and then if you think that, then you never develop yourself, because any form of development shows what you do and don't know and how you're actually performing. They can't show how they're actually performing, so now we have to do this, the fashion show to the nakedest emperors to ever be, trouncing around in their new quote-unquote clothes. Yeah, and your body, my choice is an attempt to terrorize women en masse.
Time check.
Okay, it's 3:23. Speaking of stuff I need to go do, I need to go talk to someone about my options for employment while I'm probably recovering from a big surgery that is fixing a bone anomaly that may just be foobar otherwise. So let me wrap this up. Also, I mean, just a closing thought from, these are very good discussions to have all the time, but if anybody acts like this is a side quest, they are a patriarch. The end. And that's just it. The end. That's all there is. Thank you for being here and your contributions to discussion. The entirety of it was very productive, but also very stable and solid, and it gives me something to keep working from. So thank you, because this work is endless, and that's fine. The real work begins when we actually start to develop people, humanity, which we've never had a chance to do in the history of our species. We haven't even really developed men who think they were developed. So that's fun. Okay, all right. Goodbye, everybody. Yeah, you're welcome, Jamie. I'm glad that it was helpful. That's the objective, is being effective. Yeah, education is paywalled, so I'm happy to resolve that as much as possible. And it's also 3 Guineas by Virginia Woolf. You can get it for free online. She will criticize the education system, and then you don't have to feel so bad about how getting anywhere near it is so hard. Maybe we don't need to. Maybe we don't need to. It teaches pugnacity and domination, which is the patriarchy. Okay.